Not so very long ago, before computerized toys and cathode ray characters did our speaking and thinking for us, one of a storyteller's most important tools was imagination. The imagination of an audience. That was how it used to be, once upon a time.
Maybe a few more minutes?
No. No, I don't think so.
I'd have thought, on a day like today, usually this time of year they arrive in herds.
Used to be. Oh, it's all right. It's easier to say goodbye when there's no one to say it to.
Maybe if we'd publicized it more.
I'm afraid that my little books don't have much to say to the video generation.
But a good story never becomes obsolete.
Maybe a good story, but not the storyteller.
Oh, nonsense. Well, we'll miss you at any rate. When does your house go on the market?
Next week. Oh, I suppose I should be looking forward to it. My sister tells me that Arizona is very good for aching joints.
Mm.
Is story hour over?
No, you haven't missed a thing.
Oh, good. I'm looking for Hallie Parker.
I'm Hallie Parker.
Oh, great. I'm Nancy Harris. It's very nice to meet you.
It's nice to meet you. Oh, what can I do for you? You are a bit older than my usual group.
No, well, actually, I'm here to ask a favor. Would you sign this for me? For my son. He loves all of your books, but this one is his favorite. He's read it 1,000 times.
I'd be happy to. Have a pen?
Oh, sure.
It's a surprise for him?
Sort of. He can't come himself. He's not feeling very well.
Oh, it's too bad. Say, how about I bring it to him myself?
Oh, you don't have to do that.
Oh, I'd be happy to.
Are you sure?
Write down your address and your phone number, and I can bring it this afternoon.
Oh, he'd be thrilled. Thanks, Miss Parker. I can't tell you how much this means to me. To Brian.
Well, I'll see you this afternoon, then, eh?
Yes, thank you.
Bye.
His room is right down here. Brian, there's someone here to see you.
Well, so you're my #1 fan.
She's a writer. Do you know what she writes? Well, let me give you a hint. What's your favorite book?
Creatures in the Closet?
Let's see. Can you read that?
To Brian, who I'm sure always picks up his toys and always puts away his clothes, and who certainly never, ever, ever has creatures in his closet. With kindest wishes. What's that?
That's me, Hallie Parker.
What do you say, Brian?
Gosh, thanks, Miss Parker.
You're very welcome. Want me to read you a story?
I can read.
Of course you can. What would you like to read to me?
You can if you want.
Once there was a lad named Ned who never, ever made his bed. His toys were never in their box. His bedroom floor was piled with socks, and under them was underwear. Who knows what else was under there? Ned's mother begged. She pitched a fit. Your room looks like a cyclone hit. And did Ned care? Not one bit.
This part.
And when he started cleaning, this is what he found. Creatures in the closet, badgers neath the bed, no toys inside the toy box. A pen of pigs was there instead. I guess I never noticed, was all that dear Ned said.
And Ned just said, so that's what made that noise. I knew it wasn't me. I'm the quietest of boys.
It must have been creatures in the closet and badgers neath the bed that trampled all my toys and clothes and made my mom see red.
He has to go to sleep now.
Of course.
Oh, Mom.
Oh, no, that's enough excitement for one day.
Can you come back again?
Well, I don't know, Brian. I'm going away. I'm moving to another place, and it's a little far away.
Oh.
But we'll see.
Okay, bye, Miss Parker.
Bye, Brian. Now, you get well real quick. Hello? Who's there? Broker's due here any minute. Young couple. She says they're looking for a fixer-upper. Okay, I guess. The neighborhood children are pulling all kinds of tricks on me, and I... No, Ellen, it isn't. Phoenix does not have a corner on the nice weather department, you know. Yes, I'll talk to you this weekend. Yes, bye.
Hello. Have an accident?
No, just some neighborhood children, so.
Does that happen a lot around here?
It's normally a very quiet area, isn't it, Miss Parker?
Oh, yes, very quiet, very nice.
Anyway, Paige and Martin Glazer, this is Miss Hallie Parker.
Well, I imagine that you've knocked some baseballs into living rooms in your day, eh, Mr. Glazer?
I've never been one for sports.
Anyway, shall we get started? Thank you. Solid oak.
And not a nick or splinter in it. So that you can slide down the banisters sometimes if you want to.
Gee, Miss Parker, I hope we're not keeping you from anything.
No, not at all.
Shall we move on?
The rooms seem rather closed in.
Imagine all of this opened up, you know, with the sun coming in the morning. It just makes the world of difference.
Well, I suppose if this dark old furniture was out of here, we could put in that white leather sofa we were looking at.
Oh, but might get so dirty, doesn't it, with children running in and out?
That's not a problem.
We're not planning on children.
Next room? I know it seems tiny in here, but it's all the books that make it feel so small.
It's still very dark, though.
I'm thinking skylight. And some throw pillows, a pale, soft gray carpet. You could even knock out this side wall. It would make a whole new room.
So many memories.
We're standing in a bit of history, you know. I mean, Miss Parker wrote all her famous children's books in this room, at this very desk. Didn't you, Miss Parker?
Oh, yes,
Perhaps you're familiar with some of the titles?
I doubt it.
No? Well, they escaped me at the moment, too. Anyway, onward and upward. Now, you'll notice that the staircase actually complements the home. It sort of sweeps you up to the next floor, where you'll notice that
Well, I guess it has potential, although it needs a ton of work to make it livable.
Well, of course you're right, but that's half the fun, isn't it? Breathing new life into an old place. Oh!
All I need is kids running into my house all day. Is this what you call a quiet neighborhood?
Oh, well, it's normally a very...
well, it's only children with their playthings.
I told you this place gave me a bad feeling.
Let's go.
Miss Parker, do you want to sell this house or not?
I was only trying to be helpful.
You're only trying to be helpful. Well, how about keeping the toys picked up and the kids out? Thank you so very much.
Who's there?
Hello.
Mrs. Harris, this is Holly Parker.
Holly Parker?
You remember I came by to see Brian last week.
Oh, yes, of course.
Oh, I'm sorry to bother you so late, but I thought that you'd want me to call. I've had some trouble with pranks from the neighborhood children. Maybe some of them go to school with Brian. I don't know, but one of them has taken his book.
What are you talking about?
The book that I autographed for him.
Miss Parker, Brian's dead.
Terribly sorry.
Miss Parker. Miss Parker, why are you calling?
I have his book here.
Sorry, it can't be. You must be mistaken. Miss Parker, the funeral was this morning, and we left the book with him. It was his favorite, and we figured he would like that.
His book?
Miss Parker, I'm sorry, this is not a good time to call.
Who's that? All right, children, where are you?
Don't go, Miss Parker.
Brian?
Read us a story.
Us?
Me and my friends. We want you to stay. Stay! I want you to stay. Read us a story. You won't leave us, will you?
Of course not.
Promise.
I promise. Once there was a lad named Ned who never, ever made his bed. His toys were never in their box. His bedroom floor was piled with socks, and under them was underwear. Who knows what else was under there? Ned's mother begged. She pitched a fit. Your room looks like a cyclone hit. And did Ned care? Not one bit. And when he started cleaning, this is what he found. Creatures in the closet, badgers neath the bed, no toys inside the toy box.
There was an old woman, a page in a book, mere phrases and words at which no one would look. But a tale worth telling has a life of its own, happily ever after, in the Twilight Zone. It's been said that all good things come to those who wait. This is Willie Gardner, a man whose lifetime of waiting is about to end. Willie Gardner, a man with limited space, limited horizons, and limited contact with humanity. People float in and out of his life like flotsam and jetsam washing up on the beach. But the law of salvage is about to change all that. Today, Willie is going to find something very valuable on his particular beach, in the Twilight Zone.
Hi, Willie.
Why?
Candy.
Candy, right.
I was just wondering, Willie. You don't mind that I call you Willie, do you?
No, I don't mind.
I was just wondering if you'd like to go for a walk or take in a movie, something nice.
You mean go out? Me and you?
Yeah.
Well, I don't get it. I mean, we don't even talk other than you need change for the payphone or something.
Well, sometimes it takes time to get to know someone. You know what I mean?
I don't know.
Well, okay, if that's the way you feel.
No, wait. Hey, I really would like to go out with you. That'd be real nice.
Yeah, really?
Yeah, we could go for a walk. How about tonight?
Yeah, sure. As long as you got $50.
Nobody rides for free, Willie.
Haha, very funny. Checkout time, 12 o'clock. Checkout time, 12 o'clock. Good morning, Mrs. Kudaba. How are you today?
Good morning. I'm just fine, Mr. Gardner. And how are you?
Fine, thank you.
About the rent, I'm sorry I'm late again, and I know that. But you see, my checks is late.
I understand. Mrs. Kudaba, does it ever bother you? I mean, being around all these one-nighters?
Where can I move for my Social Security?
I guess you're right. Mrs. Kudaba, yeah, don't worry about the rent. If the landlord asks for it again, I'll cover for you.
Oh, such a nice boy, Billy. You know what? You should find a nice girl, get married, have some kids.
Unfortunately, I don't get to meet many nice girls around here, Mrs. Kudaba.
Well, that's a shame. That's all I can say.
That's all right. It's no problem.
Bye.
Checkout time, 12 o'clock. Checkout time. I wish I had a nickel for every old piece of luggage I ever left in this hotel. One, 102, 103, 104, 105, 106, 107, 108, 109, 110. This is gonna take forever. Wait a minute. I wish I had an ice-cold root beer. Just like I used to have when I was a kid. This is great. What do I need you guys for? I can have anything I want. And this is my new bedspread. It's what they call a blend. It's 50% something and 50% something else, but you'd be surprised. It almost feels like real fur. Mary, I don't mean to be rude, but I'm expecting some other guests.
Hey! You leave? How's it going?
Fine, Danny. Just fine. Thanks for coming. Hi, Candy.
Hi, Willie. Thanks for inviting us. Hey, Willie. What's the girl got to do to get a drink around here?
What you doing? It's not for the TV.
It's busted.
No, it's not for the TV. It's for the stereo. It's not busted. Watch. Volume up. Volume down. Volume up. Volume down. Hey, Willie, that's a real cool stereo, man. How come I never seen it before?
Oh, well, maybe you just never noticed it before.
You never had no party before.
Well, that could be it.
You're a funny guy, Willie. I never knew that about you.
Well, there's a lot you don't know about me.
Really? Yes. Son of a gun. You really know your wine.
Thank you very much.
It's a real bouquet.
Thanks.
It's positively lousy with bouquet.
Listen, if you like it that much, why don't you take a bottle when you're ready to leave?
No kidding.
Sure, take two if you like.
Gee, thanks.
Hey, that's really generous of you, Willie.
That's nothing.
You're fresh, old buddy.
I hope you're not leaving now.
Yo, Willie, that sucker just took the last 3 bottles of wine.
Oh, it's okay. Don't worry about it. No, please, calm down, everybody. There's plenty more where that came from. I'll go get it.
Oh, I'll go with you.
No, that's okay. You stay here and enjoy yourself. I'll just be a minute. I wish I had another case of my favorite sparkling champagne. Thank you. Thank you very much. Mrs. Kudaba.
Oh, hello, Mr. Gardner. Sounds that you have lots of fun down there in your place.
We are. Why don't you come on down and join us?
Nothing personal, but some of your friends are hoodlums.
Oh, they're not so bad. Come on down. Have some fun.
No, I'm told for that kind of thing.
Okay, shoot yourself.
Good night, Mr. Gardner.
Kudaba.
Kind of stuffy in here. Why don't we go someplace where we can talk?
Okay.
It's real pretty out here, isn't it?
Really pretty.
Kind of makes you forget what's out there in the streets.
Candy. What is that short for?
Beats me. My real name's not Candy. It's Lisa. Candy's just my street name. You think that's funny?
Oh, no, I like it.
What, Lisa?
Well, yeah, that too. But I mean, I really like that you told me your real name.
Yeah, well, listen, Willie. What's a nice guy like you doing without a girlfriend? Don't you like girls?
I like you.
Well, maybe that could work out, you know what I mean?
Not really.
Well, I could be nice to you, and you could be nice to me.
I don't understand.
Well, you know, you could take me out and buy me things, get me a nice place to live.
Buy you things. Get you a nice place to live.
Yeah, you could even stay there sometimes. Sounds nice, huh?
Candy, Lisa, Candy, I'm not just looking for a girlfriend. I'm looking for someone who likes me for myself, not just for the stuff that I own.
Hey, don't get me wrong. Really?
Let's go back to the party. Come on.
You throw a great party, Willie. Yo, Willie!
Let's go.
Hey, Willie. I was checking out your TV set. Great color. Now, I was wondering, there's this big game on tomorrow night, and could I borrow it? Just for the day, you understand.
Keep it.
Serious?
Serious. Take it.
You got it. Thanks, man.
Sure.
Hey, Willie. Did you just give him that TV?
Yeah. What's it to you?
Oh, why didn't you give me the stereo then?
Be my guest.
Really?
Real music. All right, stereo baby.
Thanks, Willie.
Hey, Willie, how about this vase?
Take them. Go ahead, all of you. Knock yourselves out. Take whatever you want, and then just leave me alone, okay? You're still my friend, aren't you? Well, at least you're honest about it.
Hey, Willie! Party's over?
What can I do for you, gentlemen?
That depends.
Depends on what?
On what you got.
I don't got anything. It's late. I appreciate you dropping by.
Hey! You shouldn't be so rude to your friends, Willie.
You're not my friends. Look, you guys don't fool me anymore.
Keep an eye on him.
Hey, get out of there! What do you think you're doing?
Stay put. Watch your step.
What are you guys looking for?
Grab a piece of whatever you got going.
Ain't got nothing going.
Now look, I don't know if you knocked over a bank or what, but we want our cut of the action.
Nothing. I don't know what you guys are talking about.
Oh? Wait, are you calling me a liar? Did Willie here just call me a liar?
Sounded like it to me.
Well, this insults me, Willie. I do not like when people call me a liar. Willie. Now look, I'm gonna make this real simple for you, Willie. You come across with whatever it is that you got, or I will cut your heart out and show it to you before you hit the ground.
Okay, I get the idea.
Smart boy, Willie. Now, what do you got for us?
I got this for you.
Get him! Come on! You went this way, come on! You are dead, you are a corpse! Hey, you guys, what are you doing there? I'm calling the cops! Hey, come on!
Not here. I can't take another fall, man. I'm still on parole. You're on your own, Danny. I'm out of here.
Hey! Where'd the guy go? Can't just disappear.
Thank you. Thank you for working.
Hey! Hey! Hey, open up! Hey! Hey! Hey, open!
Hello?
Oh, hi, Mom. How are you? Mom, I'll be okay. I'm not the first girl to get dumped for someone else. Can't we talk about this later? Besides, I think we've discussed this topic a few hundred times. You don't think I want to find a decent guy to spend my life with? I wish. I'll call you later, Mom. Bye.
Willie Gardner, a simple man who discovered in a steamer trunk the difference between possessions and real wealth. Once adrift in a sea of humanity, he's finally found a safe harbor in a port of call known as the Twilight Zone.
Welcome back, Mr. Bennett.
For he's a jolly good fellow, for he's a jolly good fellow, for he's a jolly good
Heart transplant right here in our own office.
One man, one heart. An obsolete fact of life. Witness Tom Bennett, a man who accepts his new organ as just one more item that money can buy.
Okay. All right, everybody. Thanks a lot. That was very nice. Now, let's get back to work.
A man who would tell you that the boundaries of the Twilight Zone are shrinking as miracles become commonplace.
What the hell is wrong with Spence? Did you talk to him about this building lease?
Sure, I gave him input. Why?
Look, they want 3 floors, 3 high floors. And always asking for it.
Tom, I know. I said exactly the same thing. I told him he's practically giving the store away. Now, about last night.
Yeah?
My compliments to your surgeon.
Hey. Hey, guy. Welcome back. Place hasn't been the same without our killer shark. Yeah, I noticed that. 60,000 feet at $2 a foot. We can get at least 2.5 for that.
Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm fine. Well, that's a first. Tom Bennett loosens his tie.
Tom, are you sure you're feeling okay?
If you can show me where we can hit them up for some more money. It's easy. How is it easy? You just up the price to 2.5 per foot and then tell them to take it or leave it. Did you ever own a pair of really good boots?
Excuse me?
Yeah, the kind of boot that fits around your foot like it's always belonged there.
Don't look at me. If it doesn't have 3-inch heels, I'm not interested.
Where are you going? Be right back. I'm gonna go buy a pair. I'm gonna buy some boots. Tom, we're in the middle of something here now. Yeah. You wanna come along?
Tom. You're serious, aren't you?
Sure.
Okay. Let's go get them boots, partner. Gourmet lunch? You shouldn't have.
Come on, let's go for a walk.
Okay, what's that? Hot dogs for lunch, strolls on the beach. Tom, this is not like you.
But it's great, isn't it?
Wait a minute, Tom. I can't go down there in my heels.
Take them off.
Sure. Designer hose, $30 a pair. Why not?
Nice, huh?
Yeah, Tom, I really have to get back. Tom. Hello?
That woman.
What about her?
I've seen her before.
Where? You mean here before?
No. Yeah. Maybe I have. While I can appreciate your firm's situation, I'm certain that you can also appreciate ours. If you wish to continue as a tenant... Excuse me. How about something to eat? Sure. Julie, want to go?
Thanks. I think I'll pass this time.
The terms I have outlined are the best we can offer in the current rental market. Unfortunately, there's no room for negotiation. That's good. You know, I was thinking this place could use a few plants.
Definitely. I'll order some. Let's go. Good night, Mr. Bennett. He used to hate plants.
Where are we headed? This car. Who cares? Just relax. We'll wander around till we stumble across something.
Okay, what's going on?
Told you, just wandering.
For an hour? Look, I know you like driving this car, Tom, but I'm starving.
Hey, bear with me. I feel like...
Jesus. Now, that wasn't wandering. Tom.
I don't know. I just felt like going in this direction.
Tom, when you have a heart transplant, it's got to be a shock to your whole system, you know? Did they warn you about anything like, temporary craziness?
Tom, what is this? This is dinner. Get the hell out of here. You got an immune system that's already stressed out. This is not dinner. You look at that? What, the waitress? What are we doing here? Come on, it's a nice place. I want to get to know that waitress. Why? I don't know. There's something about her. It's like she's somebody I want to talk to.
Mister, is there some reason you've been staring at me since you walked in here?
I didn't mean to make you uncomfortable. Look, this is going to come from nowhere, but will you have dinner with me?
No.
Just dinner. Honest.
Sorry, I'm booked up till Christmas.
I'm serious. I think we have something in common. Take a chance. Tomorrow night. Or the next night. I know some great, great restaurants.
Thanks, but no thanks. He asked me for a date.
What did you say? What do you mean, what did I say? I said no. Mary Jo, you have got to start dating sometime, and this guy looks like one hell of a way to start.
Why does he keep staring at me?
He's weird.
Look, what about Ralph? He'd ask you out in a second if he thought you were available.
Well, I'm not available. Honey, Jamie's dead. You aren't.
Tom, I want to talk to you.
Okay, agreed. We have no claims on each other, fine. But I will not be humiliated.
Huh?
By a waitress? In some greasy spoon, Tom?
Hey, I go in there for lunch a couple of days a week. That's it.
So what's the attraction, the ambiance or the cuisine?
Both. I like the food, and I'm comfortable there. I feel good there. Which is strange, considering nobody likes me.
Least of all your waitress, I presume.
She's not my waitress anymore. Mary Jo refuses to serve me.
Which is just the kind of challenge you like.
Wrong. As a matter of fact, I keep telling myself this is stupid. What are you doing there? But then, a couple of days later, there I am.
Oh, poor baby. All that meatloaf and no love.
Hi. How about a piece of that cherry pie?
No. Look, I am getting sick and tired of you hanging around here all the time. You're not coming here for the food.
Yeah, it's really not that bad.
And the fact is, if you're not coming here for the food, there is nothing here for you. And why don't you just go and get in your fancy old car and you go someplace else?
Don't you get the message? You're not wanted around here. Come here. It's not that you're not a nice man. It's just that, well, you gotta understand.
Mark, he's here.
I gotta go. Night.
Mary Jo. I want to apologize. I had no idea. Your friend told me.
She had no business doing that.
Mary Jo. You guys must have been pretty close, huh?
Close. We lived next door to each other since we were 5 years old. We always knew we were going to get married. Well, maybe that sounds kind of silly to you. Well, maybe it is silly. But it was the kind of love that makes you hurt. The kind of love that you feel right down into your toes. He promised me wanted to wait until he had a good job. And it didn't matter to me at all, but it was important to him. And he did it. I was so proud of him. And he called me up. We set a date. And he was coming right over, and we were gonna celebrate. We were gonna have kids. They said he drove off the road. And they took him to the hospital. Even in death, he did good by somebody else. That's the kind of guy that he was.
What do you mean?
Nothing. Nothing that would mean anything to you. Now, please go away!
Wait, what was his name? I want to know his name.
Jamie Adler.
Thank you, Doctor. Yeah, I appreciate it. Of course. Strictly confidential, I understand.
I've just been on the phone.
Me too.
Did you tell McLaughlin that he could set his own price? This is crazy, Tom. There is no way we can agree to it.
You know whose heart they put in me? It's a man named Jamie Adler. Very nice guy.
To which of you should I tender my condolences?
It's a good question.
Where the hell are you going now?
I don't know. I'm going for a walk.
Look, Tom. If you don't shape up, you're going to lose everything. The house, the job, the car.
I got rid of that car.
What do you want?
Coffee.
Still here. Yep, he is. What does he want? After 5 cups of coffee, donut? I think he wants to talk to you. Sure is patient. I think if we went away for the weekend now, he'd still be here Monday morning waiting. What should I do? Follow your heart. Let's take it.
No. Please. Am I really so terrible?
It's nothing to do with you.
You'd be surprised.
I'm sure you're a very nice man. I'm not ready for anyone right now.
Can I tell you something?
Sure.
This morning, I got this news. It's the kind of news that makes you want to go lie down for a while. I was scared. Then I kind of got comfortable with it. You don't have the slightest idea what I'm talking about, do you?
Not really.
Look, for a long time I was sick. They said it was my heart, but I think maybe it was my life. Half the time I didn't know what I was doing, and the other half I did, but I'm not sure which I'm more ashamed of. And now I've got another chance.
What do you want from me?
Just a chance, whenever you're ready. I've kicked open a lot of doors in my time, okay? But I'm willing to wait for this one to open by itself. If it does, I'm gonna be there, I promise. Well, at least let me buy you a piece of pie. Madam, give me a piece of strawberry pie with peach ice cream, please.
That's my favorite. How did you know that?
Lucky guess?
You're a strange one. I warn you, I'm not an easy person at times.
Oh, really?
Jamie made me a promise, too. He said that he would always be with me.
Yeah, I kind of suspected that. Well, he meant it, I'm sure. And, I'll keep my promise. Cross my heart.
A philosopher once wrote, "The heart has its reasons that reason does not know." Perhaps he was born knowing that truth. Or perhaps, like Mr. Tom Bennett, he discovered it with a little help from the Twilight Zone.
"Thank you, Doctor," Mistress Milligan said, looking immensely relieved as she stood up and smoothed her skirt. "Thank you so much. For all of our sakes." Chapter 2. The First Encounter. The basement of the apartment building on Elm Street was cool, damp, and smelled of ancient concrete, coal dust, and old steam pipes. Dr. Jeremy Sinclair descended the creaking wooden stairs, his polished leather shoes making a sharp, hollow sound against the steps. The light down here was dim, provided only by a few bare yellow bulbs hanging from frayed cords attached to the ceiling joists. As he reached the bottom of the stairs, he heard the faint sound of clinking metal and muttering. He followed the sound around a massive, sleeping cast-iron furnace, its many ductwork arms stretching out like an octopus. In the shadows, an elderly gentleman was bent over a large wooden crate, his hands buried deep in a collection of assorted metal parts. This was Edgar Witherspoon. He was a small, wire-framed man, wearing a faded cardigan sweater that was missing its bottom two buttons, a pair of trousers that had seen better days, and a pair of thick, wire-rimmed spectacles that sat precariously on the tip of his nose. His hair was a wild halo of wispy white, pointing in several directions at once, giving him the appearance of a kindly but distracted inventor. Down there in the basement, Edgar was talking to himself. "Oh, thank you. Thanks anyway, Mr. Pilchick. But I already found a brass thimble," he muttered, tossing a small piece of metal back into the crate. Dr. Sinclair cleared his throat gently so as not to startle the old man. "Excuse me, Mr. Witherspoon?" Edgar did not look up immediately. He continued to search the crate, his fingers moving with a surprising, practiced agility. "You are not Mr. Pilchick," he said, his voice light and airy, but with a firm undertone. "No, I am not," Dr. Sinclair replied, stepping forward into the pool of light. "I am Dr. Jeremy Sinclair. May I talk to you, Mr. Witherspoon?" Edgar finally looked up, his bright blue eyes blinking behind his thick lenses. He peered at the doctor with a mixture of mild interest and impatience. "Some other time, perhaps," he said quickly. "I have to look for a doll's head. It is very urgent." He turned back to his crate, muttering under his breath, dismissing the psychiatrist entirely. Dr. Sinclair stood there for a moment watching the old man. Here was a classic portrait. One old man, living in a private world of irrational, frantic urgencies. For Dr. Jeremy Sinclair, a professional who spent his days navigating the labyrinthine corridors of human mental illness, this was an all-too-common sight. The world was full of lonely souls who constructed complex internal realities to cope with the silence of their lives. But as Dr. Sinclair would soon learn, Edgar Witherspoon was a most uncommon old man. He possessed a secret, a strange and terrifying logic, that reached out from his dusty basement apartment to the four corners of the entire earth. "Mr. Witherspoon," Dr. Sinclair said, taking another step closer, "your niece, Cynthia. She worries about you very much. She is a very nice woman, you know." Edgar stopped rummaging for a moment. He looked at Dr. Sinclair, a soft, genuine smile breaking across his wrinkled face. "Yes, she is. She is a very nice woman," he agreed warmly. "So please tell her not to worry. See? You understand?" Mrs. Milligan looked at the doctor, then at the checkbook in his hand. A slow, greedy smile spread across her face. "Well," she said, smoothing her apron, "if it is for medical science, I suppose I can make an exception. Double the rent, you say?" "Double," Dr. Sinclair confirmed, his hand shaking as he wrote out the figures. "Very well, doctor," she said, gesturing to the two workmen. "Come on, boys. Let us leave the doctor to his research." As they walked out, Mrs. Milligan paused at the door. "He escaped, you know." Dr. Sinclair stopped. "What?" "Mr. Witherspoon," she said. "The clinic called. They said he walked right out of the observation ward about an hour ago. They don't know where he is." Dr. Sinclair didn't answer. He stood in the silent, dusty room, listening to the gentle, almost imperceptible swaying of the hanging mobile. Chapter 8. The Passing of the Pendulum. "Mr. Witherspoon. Mr. Witherspoon." Dr. Sinclair ran down the street, his eyes scanning the crowded sidewalks. The sun had set, and the street lamps were flickering to life, casting a warm, orange glow over the damp pavement. "Should I call the cops, doctor?" Miss Walker asked, pulling her car up to the curb. She looked exhausted, her hair disheveled from her frantic drive back from the clinic. "No, no, no," Dr. Sinclair said, leaning against the car door to catch his breath. "Everything is going to be fine. Miss Walker, do you have a handkerchief?" "Yes, right here," a soft, familiar voice said from the back seat of the car. Dr. Sinclair looked up. Mr. Witherspoon was sitting comfortably in the back of Miss Walker's sedan, holding a neat white handkerchief in his hand. He looked entirely unbothered, his face bright and cheerful. "Thanks," the old man said, offering the handkerchief to the doctor. "That lady at the clinic had me dressed so fast. I left mine behind in the rush." "Mr. Witherspoon," Dr. Sinclair said, opening the car door and helping the old man out. I do not know how to begin to apologize. my behavior, my diagnosis. Nothing in my training had prepared me for a case like yours. I was wrong. I was so terribly wrong. Mr. Witherspoon smiled, patting the doctor's arm with a gentle, fatherly hand. Oh, do not worry about it, doctor. It is a very common mistake. Sane people have a hard time seeing the big picture. It has been very nice meeting you, though. Where are you going? Dr. Sinclair asked, noticing for the first time that Mr. Witherspoon was carrying a small, neat suitcase. Away, finally, the old man said, his eyes shining with excitement. After 11 years of doing this work, I am finally free. But what about the balance? Dr. Sinclair gasped, his voice rising in panic. What about the world? The voice spoke to me while I was in your hospital, Mr. Witherspoon explained, his voice warm and content. It said, Edgar, have you ever been to Miami? And I said no, but I used to think it would be a very nice place to retire. Warm weather, palm trees, no earthquakes to worry about. Go for it, Edgar, the voice said. You are off duty. You are off duty? Dr. Sinclair repeated, his mind struggling to grasp the words. You mean, all this isn't necessary anymore? The machine in the basement can be dismantled? Oh, sure it is, Mr. Witherspoon said, looking surprised. It is absolutely essential. The world still has to be kept in balance, doctor. If someone doesn't look after it, everything will go poof in a matter of days. But who is going to do it? Dr. Sinclair asked, a terrible, heavy realization beginning to dawn on him. Mr. Witherspoon smiled, a beautiful, knowing smile. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small, red rubber ball. And look, he said, pointing back toward the apartment building. It needs adjusting already. That is it. If someone can just get a ping-pong ball in there by 7 hours and 13 minutes tonight. Well, I guess we solved that little problem. He handed the red rubber ball to Dr. Sinclair. I would get cracking if I was you, doctor. No, Dr. Sinclair whispered, shaking his head. No, this is impossible. I refuse. I am a psychiatrist, a man of science. I cannot spend my life collecting trash in a basement. Mr. Witherspoon chuckled, picking up his suitcase. Jeremy, really, you will grow to like it. Give it a chance. It gives you a wonderful sense of purpose, you know. Much better than being retired. He turned and began to walk down the street, his steps light and joyful. So long, doctor. Don't take any wooden nickels, unless you really need them for the balance, of course. Mr. Witherspoon, Dr. Sinclair called out, but the old man did not look back. He rounded the corner, his white hair disappearing into the evening crowd, leaving Dr. Sinclair standing alone on the sidewalk. Dr. Sinclair looked down at the red rubber ball in his hand. It felt heavy, heavier than any object had a right to feel. He looked at his watch. It was 6 hours and 45 minutes. He had less than 30 minutes to find a ping-pong ball. Chapter 9, The Preventative Medicine. The basement apartment was quiet, save for the slow, rhythmic ticking of... But it was certainly long enough for me to realize that he is. Well, that he is experiencing some highly organized, intense delusional thinking. Absolutely, Cynthia sighed, her shoulders slumping. He has been getting worse, doctor. I can feel it. But on the other hand, Mr. Witherspoon appears to be quite happy and, for the most part, entirely harmless, Sinclair added, trying to offer some comfort. Harmless? Cynthia repeated, her voice rising with a mix of disbelief and fear. Doctor, he pesters complete strangers on the street. He runs after municipal garbage trucks, shouting at the drivers to give him their trash. That is far from harmless, doctor. Just the other day, someone saw him take a baby's bottle right out of its carriage in the park. The mother was terrified. I am so afraid he will get arrested next time. He does not understand that his actions are not socially acceptable. Doctor, I will sign anything. I will cooperate in any way I can to get him the help he needs. If he needs to be committed to a facility where he can be safe and cared for, I will sign the papers. I just want him to be safe. Dr. Sinclair reached across his desk and placed a comforting hand near hers. I understand, Cynthia. It is an incredibly difficult situation for a family to face. But committing someone to a psychiatric institution is a major step, one that strips them of their personal freedom. Before we take such a drastic measure, I want to be absolutely certain of his diagnosis and his level of risk. All right, maybe I will have another chat with him. A longer one this time. I want to see if I can understand the internal logic of his delusions. Cynthia wiped her eyes and nodded. Thank you, doctor. I trust your judgment. Suddenly, Dr. Sinclair froze. A strange, inexplicable sensation washed over him. It was a faint, distant feeling of vibration, a minute shift in the air pressure of the room. He blinked, looking around his office. Did you hear that? Dr. Sinclair asked, his voice suddenly quiet. Cynthia looked at him, confused. What? Hear what, doctor? There was something about a... Sinclair paused, shaking his head. The sensation vanished as quickly as it had arrived, leaving him feeling slightly foolish. He laughed softly, a self-deprecating sound. Sorry, it was nothing. I do not know what I was thinking. I must be working too hard. He cleared his throat and stood up to signal the end of the consultation. I will call you Cynthia. As soon as I can, after I have spoken with your uncle again. Thank you very much, Dr. Sinclair, Cynthia said, rising and shaking his hand warmly. After she left, Dr. Sinclair walked over to his radio, which sat on a small shelf near his bookshelf. He turned the dial, seeking a low, soothing classical music station to help him concentrate on his notes. Instead, he caught a news broadcast. Increased volcanic activity could be a major problem in the coming months. The announcer's voice droned, static crackling slightly over the airwaves. Meanwhile, acid rain is affecting the northern lakes even more than scientists had previously predicted. Dr. Sinclair turned the volume down, his mind drifting back to Edgar Witherspoon. He looked at the slip of paper with the address. There was a mystery there, one that he felt compelled to solve, not just as a doctor, but as a human being who cared for the lonely souls of the world. Chapter 4. The Secret Mechanism. A week had passed before Dr. Sinclair found the top lined with heavy leather-bound volumes of psychoanalytic theory, and filled with the gentle, rhythmic ticking of a grandfather clock that sat in the corner. But on this particular Tuesday, the tranquil atmosphere was completely shattered by the presence of Mistress Milligan. Mistress Milligan, the landlady of a nearby apartment building on Elm Street, sat perched on the very edge of her leather armchair. She was a woman of formidable presence, clad in a floral-patterned dress that seemed to rustle with her indignation, her handbag clutched to her chest like a shield. He is crazy, Dr. Sinclair, she began, her voice a sharp, rapid-fire staccato that bounced off the quiet walls. That is exactly what he is. A loony, a nutcase, a genuine wacko. I do not use those terms lightly, mind you, but there is simply no other way to describe Uncle Edgar. Dr. Jeremy Sinclair, a man in his late 30s with a kind, patient face, spectacles balanced on the bridge of his nose, and a permanent air of calm professionalism, leaned back in his chair. He adjusted his glasses and offered a reassuring smile. Please, Mistress Milligan, tell me more about Mr. Witherspoon, Dr. Sinclair said, his voice a smooth, calming baritone. What exactly has he been doing to cause you such distress? What has he not been doing? Mistress Milligan exclaimed, waving a hand in the air. Uncle Edgar is always looking for things. And I do not mean normal things that a gentleman of his age might misplace, like his spectacles or his house keys. No, indeed. He is looking for things like 3 paper clips, or a chrome coat hanger, or 1 patent leather tap shoe. He rummages through the public trash cans on the street corner. He actually goes to the municipal garbage dumps on the edge of town, sorting through mounds of refuse as if he were looking for buried treasure. Dr. Sinclair nodded slowly, making a mental note. Eccentric hoarding behavior was not uncommon among elderly individuals living alone, though the specificity of the items was intriguing. And that is not even the worst of it, Mistress Milligan continued, leaning forward, her eyes wide with frustration. "He is always bothering my other tenants. The poor things cannot step out of their doors without him asking them for the strangest objects. One day it is bicycle spokes. He will corner young Bobby on his way to school and beg him for spokes from his wheel. Then the next week it is baseball cards. Not a complete set, mind you, just specific ones of players who retired 30 years ago. And who do the tenants complain to about all this disruption? Yours truly, of course. I am the one who has to listen to their grievances day in and day out." She paused to catch her breath, then shook her head with a heavy sigh. "And he is so secretive, Doctor. He will not let anybody into his apartment. Not a soul. Not even his own niece, Cynthia, who loves him dearly and only wants to ensure he is eating properly. All that junk he is collecting, piling up day after day, week after week in that small space. It is a fire trap, Dr. Sinclair. It is a genuine hazard. He could easily hurt himself, or worse, he could hurt other people. Namely me. I own the building, after all. He needs your help, Doctor. He really does." Dr. Sinclair leaned forward, resting his elbows on his desk, his hands clasped. "I understand your concern for safety, Mistress Milligan. But eccentricities, even extreme ones, do not always warrant involuntary psychiatric intervention. Is there anything else? Any behavior that suggests he is a danger to himself or others in a more immediate way?" Mistress Milligan threw her hands up in the air. "Just yesterday, Doctor, he was in an absolute frenzy because he wanted a yo-yo. He insisted he had to have a yo-yo by 6 o'clock in the evening. Not 5 minutes after 6, mind you, but exactly 6. He was practically weeping on the sidewalk. And last week it was pieces of broken dolls. He was searching the gutters for doll parts. Heads, arms, legs. It was ghastly, Doctor. Please do something. Please, for his own sake. And for ours, of course." She reached into her handbag and pulled out a small piece of paper, placing it on the desk. "Oh, and if you do decide to visit him, you should know that his doorbell does not work." Dr. Sinclair looked at the paper, which had Mr. Witherspoon's address written on it. "His bell is broken?" "Ah," Mistress Milligan sighed, shaking her head. "I think he has disconnected it himself. He spends half his time down there in the basement, messing around with the building's wiring and plumbing. I cannot keep track of him." Dr. Sinclair picked up the slip of paper, his curiosity genuinely piqued. A retired man, living in a world of scrap metal, broken doll parts, and strict deadlines. It sounded like a classic case of obsessive-compulsive behavior, perhaps coupled with late-stage dementia, but there was an unusual specificity to the old man's demands that intrigued the clinical psychologist in him. "Very well, Mistress Milligan," Dr. Sinclair said, rising from his chair. "I will go and pay a visit to Mr. Edgar Witherspoon. I cannot promise any immediate action, but I will evaluate his state of mind and see what can be done to assist him. But, what exactly is it?" "This?" Edgar asked, gesturing to the sprawling web of metal, wire, and plastic. "This is the only thing that keeps the entire world from going poof." Dr. Sinclair blinked, his clinical training quickly reasserting itself. This was a classic delusion of grandeur, but the physical manifestation of it was unparalleled in his experience. "Now, let me understand you clearly, Mr. Witherspoon," Dr. Sinclair said, walking slowly along the designated path, careful not to let his coat brush against any hanging wires. "You say that this structure is what keeps the world from going poof. And it is not easy," Dr. Edgar said, shaking his head. "Most of the things the machine requires are nearly impossible to find. For instance, where would you look for an old skate key these days?" "Oh, I cannot imagine," Sinclair murmured, looking at a small, rusty metal key suspended by a rubber band from a light fixture. "I found one, though," Edgar said triumphantly. "You think that is crazy? Well, it is all about balance, you see. You wouldn't by any chance have a business card on you, would you?" "Oh yes, of course," Dr. Sinclair said. He reached into his breast pocket, pulled out a neat, white card, and handed it to Edgar. Edgar took it with a look of immense gratitude. "Oh, that was an easy one. He immediately walked over to a section of the machine where a small silver fork was balanced on a wooden block. He slid the business card under one of the prongs, adjusting the balance by a fraction of a millimeter. He nodded in satisfaction. "Well, I won't take up any more of your time, Dr. Sinclair," Edgar said, turning back to him. "I am sure you have seen more than enough to make your report." Dr. Sinclair looked at the old man, his heart aching. He could see the brilliant mind behind the madness. "Mr. Witherspoon, I must ask, how did you begin all of this? What led you to build this machine?" Edgar looked down at his shoes, his expression softening into nostalgia. "I used to be an engineer, he said quietly. "A real engineer. Built bridges, designed municipal water systems. Earned lots of money, too. Then, when I reached 65, I retired." He shook his head, a look of bitter regret crossing his face. "Worst mistake I ever made in my entire life, Doctor. Life became so damned boring. I had nothing to do, nowhere to go. I felt completely useless. And then, the voice spoke to me." Dr. Sinclair's professional instincts sharpened. "The onset of auditory hallucinations post-retirement." "Oh, you also hear voices?" he asked gently. Edgar looked at him, his eyes sparkling with amusement. "You too, Doctor? Please, tell me about it." Dr. Sinclair smiled, realizing Edgar had caught his clinical phrasing. "No, Mr. Witherspoon, I do not hear voices. But please tell me about yours. When did it start?" "I was sitting in the park one day, feeding the pigeons," Edgar said, his voice dropping to a theatrical whisper. "I was feeling very low, thinking my life was over. And suddenly, there it was. The voice. 'Edgar,' it said. 'Have you ever been to England?' "Oh yes, why?" Sinclair asked, caught up in the story. No, Edgar laughed. "That is what the voice asked me. 'Edgar,' it said, 'have you ever been to England?' And I said no, I had not. And then the voice told me a story, Doctor." Edgar leaned in closer, his eyes intense. "In the very heart of the great clock tower of Big Ben in London, there is a massive pendulum. That pendulum is what tells the entire clock how fast or how slow to tick. And at the very bottom of that, a simple solution." He smiled brightly, as if he had just solved a complex mathematical equation with a simple stroke of common sense. He wiped his dusty hands on his trousers and made a gesture toward the stairs. "Thanks for coming, Doctor. It has been an absolute pleasure meeting you. Truly. But I really must get on with my work now." "Your work?" Dr. Sinclair asked, his curiosity deepening. "What kind of work is that, Mr. Witherspoon?" Edgar paused, a mischievous glint appearing in his eyes. He tilted his head, looking at the psychiatrist like a schoolboy with a secret. "I bet you would like to know what it is, would you not?" "Yes, actually, I would," Dr. Sinclair admitted with a friendly smile. Edgar's smile vanished instantly, replaced by a solemn shake of his head. "Wrong answer," he said flatly. He turned away and began searching a different shelf, ignoring the doctor once more. Suddenly, his eyes swept over the floor near Sinclair's feet. He pointed a thin, trembling finger. "You see a doll's head here anywhere?" Edgar asked, his voice suddenly tight with anxiety. Dr. Sinclair looked down. He looked around the dusty floor, spotting a small, plastic shape tucked behind a stack of old newspapers. "You mean like that one?" he asked, pointing to a discarded, dirty plastic doll. Edgar scrambled over, picked up the doll, and examined it with intense, critical scrutiny. He turned it over in his hands, frowning deeply. "Ah, too big," he sighed, his voice laced with disappointment. "Also, it is brunette. I need blonde, and I need it in exactly 5 minutes." "And what for, Mr. Witherspoon?" Dr. Sinclair asked, humoring him. "What happens if you do not find a blonde doll's head in 5 minutes?" Edgar looked up, his face deadly serious, his eyes wide behind his spectacles. "You want Santa Barbara to fall into the ocean?" he asked, his tone conveying that this was the most obvious and catastrophic consequence imaginable. "If you do not want that, then stand aside, sir." Stand aside. With a sudden burst of energy, Edgar pushed past the doctor and hurried toward a corner of the basement, where a pile of discarded toys lay in a dusty heap. He began tossing aside broken trucks, wooden blocks, and old board games with frantic speed. Dr. Sinclair watched him, feeling a familiar mixture of pity and clinical interest. The delusion of grandeur was immense. The belief that a simple action, like finding a specific toy part, was all that stood between a major city and a terrible natural disaster. Woohoo! Edgar suddenly cried out, a triumphant grin spreading across his face. He held up a tiny, weathered plastic doll's head. It was blonde, missing one blue glass eye, and covered in a layer of basement grime. Just in the nick of time. No time to lose. He began to scramble toward the stairs, his breath coming in short, excited gasps. Mr. Witherspoon, Dr. Sinclair called out, following him. Please wait a moment. Edgar stopped at the bottom of the stairs, turning back to look at the doctor. He looked down at the tiny blonde head in his hand, then up at Sinclair. His expression softened, and he looked suddenly contorted with embarrassment. I am sorry, Edgar said, his voice quiet and polite. I should not be rude to you. You have come all this way to see me, after all. May I come up to your apartment with you? Dr. Sinclair asked, hoping to gain access to the domestic space that Mistress Milligan had described as a fire trap. Edgar smiled apologetically. And it was so nice. A real pleasure meeting you, Doctor. Tell my niece I said hello. Now, if you will excuse me, I have got to go and stop the shaking in Santa Barbara. He turned and began to climb the stairs with surprising speed, his small frame disappearing into the shadows of the upper hallway. Just before he vanished, he leaned over the railing and tossed a small cardboard box down toward the doctor. Mr. Witherspoon, Dr. Sinclair called out, catching the box. On your way out, could you dump this for me? Edgar's voice echoed down the stairwell. Dr. Sinclair looked down at the box in his hands. It was filled with old, rusty bicycle spokes, several bent paper clips, and a single, worn-out leather shoe. He shook his head, a wave of profound sadness washing over him. The mind was indeed a fragile, beautiful, and sometimes terrifyingly chaotic thing. Chapter 3, Family Concerns. Later that afternoon, Dr. Jeremy Sinclair sat in his office once more, this time across from Cynthia, Edgar Witherspoon's niece. Cynthia was a kind-faced woman in her early 30s, her eyes shadowed with worry and exhaustion. She wore a simple, professional wool coat and held a damp tissue in her hands, twisting it nervously. Good afternoon, Doctor, Cynthia said, her voice trembling slightly. Did you manage to see Uncle Edgar this morning? Yes, I did, Dr. Sinclair replied gently. Well, she asked, looking at him with desperate hope. What do you think? I could not exactly call it a long conversation, Dr. Sinclair admitted, choosing his words carefully, triumphant. Dr. Sinclair paused, momentarily caught off guard by the old man's logic. That is not the same thing, Mr. Witherspoon. Why? Edgar demanded. What is the difference between a sane man hearing a crazy voice and a crazy man hearing a sane voice? Maybe the truth of the universe is somewhere in the middle, Doctor. You do not understand the immense risk you are taking by keeping me here. Suddenly, Edgar stiffened. He looked at the clock on the hospital wall. It was exactly 3:17 in the afternoon. A look of profound, devastating horror washed over the old man's face. He let out a soft, choked cry and slumped back against the pillows. I knew it, Edgar whispered, his voice hollow and dead. There goes Tatoa. Dr. Sinclair frowned, looking at his clipboard. What is Tatoa, Mr. Witherspoon? It is a tiny, beautiful island in the South Pacific, Edgar said, his eyes staring blankly at the ceiling. Dr. Sinclair looked at his wristwatch. It was indeed exactly 3:17. What time is it, Doctor? Edgar asked, though he already knew the answer. It is 3:17, Sinclair replied. At 3:17 in the afternoon, Edgar said, his voice trembling with grief, the island of Tatoa became history. It was wiped off the face of the earth. And it happened because of you, Doctor. because you kept me here away from my machine. Cynthia looked at Dr. Sinclair, her eyes wide with concern. Doctor, is he? Please, Edgar whispered, turning his face to the wall. If there is still time. It will take me days to clean up this junk if the balance is completely lost. Keep Mistress Milligan away from my apartment. Do not let her touch the machine. Remember Tatoa, Doctor. Remember Tatoa. Dr. Sinclair walked out of the room, leaving Cynthia to comfort her uncle. He felt a deep sense of professional satisfaction mixed with sadness. It was a classic case, he thought to himself. A retired man, feeling useless and discarded by society, had created a magnificent delusion of grandeur to convince himself that he was vital to the very survival of the world. It was a beautiful, tragic coping mechanism. Poor Uncle Edgar, Cynthia said as she joined the doctor in the hallway, wiping her eyes. You will take good care of him, won't you, Dr. Sinclair? Of course we will, Cynthia, Dr. Sinclair assured her. He is in the best possible hands. Chapter 6. The Balance Shifts. Later that evening, Dr. Sinclair was sitting in his study at home, a glass of warm milk on the table beside him. He was reading a professional journal, but his mind kept drifting back to Edgar Witherspoon's desperate words. Remember Tatoa. He reached over and turned on his small desktop radio, tuning it to the hourly news broadcast. He needed something mundane to ground his thoughts. And in other news, the Mideast stalemate continues with no end in sight. The news anchor's voice filled the quiet room. In Washington, Congress has finally passed the controversial Transportation Act after weeks of debate. And in the South Pacific, Dr. Sinclair froze, his hand stopping midair as he reached for his glass of milk. The tiny, remote island of Tatoa has been completely destroyed by a sudden, massive tidal wave. Early reports indicate that the island was entirely submerged, and there are fears that the small population has been lost. We will bring you more details on this tragedy and all the news of the hour in our next broadcast. Dr. Sinclair's heart stopped. The glass of milk slipped from his hand, spilling across the polished wood of his desk, but he did not even notice. Did he say Tatoa? Sinclair whispered to him time to return to the apartment building on Elm Street. This time, he bypassed the basement and went straight to the door of apartment number 3B. He knocked firmly on the dark wooden frame. There was no sound from within. He knocked again, louder this time. Mr. Witherspoon? A muffled, irritated voice came from behind the locked door. Go away. I am not home. Mr. Witherspoon, it is Dr. Sinclair, the psychiatrist said, leaning closer to the door. I was here last week. You remember me? Sorry, I was not home last week either. Edgar called back, a clever note of defiance in his voice. Dr. Sinclair sighed, deciding to use a bit of professional authority. Mr. Witherspoon, I must inform you that I could legally force you to open this door to me. I have the authorization from your family and the city health department to conduct an evaluation. Is that what you want? I would much prefer we talk as friends. There was a long silence from inside the apartment. Then the sound of several heavy deadbolts sliding back, one by one. The door creaked open a few inches, held by a sturdy brass chain. Edgar's face appeared in the crack, his spectacles reflecting the dim light of the hallway. You are a very curious one, Edgar said, his tone a mix of suspicion and amusement. Odd, you mean? Dr. Sinclair asked, offering a gentle smile. I mean nosy, Edgar corrected him. Dr. Sinclair chuckled. Well, I am paid to be nosy, Mr. Witherspoon, or curious, as I prefer to call it. Really? Edgar asked, his eyes widening slightly. Do you not think that is odd? Most people in this world are curious for absolutely nothing. They just poke their noses into other people's business for the sake of gossip. But you get paid for it. That is very nice for you. Are the hours good? The hours are reasonable, Sinclair replied, keeping his tone light and conversational. Mr. Witherspoon, why do you collect dolls' heads, old shoes, and paper clips? What is the purpose of all these items? Edgar stared at him through the crack in the door for a long moment, as if assessing whether the doctor could be trusted with a great secret. Finally, he sighed. I cannot afford Rembrandts, Edgar said simply. What? Dr. Sinclair asked, taken aback by the unexpected artistic reference. But before he could ask for clarification, Edgar suddenly winced, his face contorting in pain or distress. Oh no, he whispered, looking past the doctor into the hallway as if he could see something invisible. Mr. Witherspoon? Sinclair asked. As usual, it has been absolutely lovely talking to you, Dr. Edgar said quickly, his voice tight. Please do not call on me again. He began to close the door, but Dr. Sinclair placed a firm hand against the wood, preventing it from shutting. Mr. Witherspoon, please, Sinclair said, his voice taking on a serious, authoritative edge. I may have to call again, and the next time it might not be so lovely. You must understand what I mean. If you do not cooperate with me, your niece and the city will have no choice but to have you removed from this apartment. Do you understand? Edgar looked at the doctor's hand on the door, then up into his eyes. There was no anger in the old man's face, only a profound, weary sadness. Wouldn't you rather invite me in of your own free will? Dr. Sinclair asked gently. Edgar sighed, his shoulders dropping. Very well, he whispered. You must come in. But you must be very, very careful where you walk. You must not touch anything. The chain was slid back, and the door swung open. Dr. Sinclair stepped into the apartment, and for a moment, he could only stare in absolute amazement. He had expected a horde, a chaotic mess of garbage and old newspapers piled to the ceiling, the typical environment of a severe compulsive hoarder. Instead, he found himself standing inside a breathtaking, massive kinetic sculpture. The apartment was indeed filled from floor to ceiling, but it was organized with an incredible microscopic precision. Thousands of objects, brass thimbles, bicycle spokes, old tin cans, broken dolls, rubber bands, feathers, clock gears, copper wire, and yes, blonde doll heads, were interconnected in a sprawling, delicate web that filled the entire living room. Threads of colored yarn and fine copper wire stretched from the ceiling to the floor, suspended from tack points on the walls. A small electric fan sat in a corner, its gentle breeze causing a series of hanging paper clips to sway in a slow, rhythmic dance. A toy train track ran along a shelf, with a small silver spoon balanced on a wire above it, poised to drop onto a brass bell if the train were to pass. Everything was linked. It was a massive, incredibly complex, three-dimensional puzzle that seemed to breathe with a life of its own. How is it, Doctor? Edgar asked, standing in the center of a small, cleared pathway, his eyes shining with pride. It is very interesting, Mr. Witherspoon, Dr. Sinclair managed to say, his professional demeanor temporarily shattered by the sheer scale and beauty of the installation. He stood in the quiet apartment, the gentle breeze from the electric fan causing the paper clips to sway. He looked at the vast, intricate web of connections. He was a man of science, a man of logic, but he was also a man who had just witnessed the impossible. Suddenly, the phone in the hallway began to ring. Dr. Sinclair walked over and picked it up. Hello? Dr. Sinclair? It was Miss Walker, his secretary at the hospital. Yes, Miss Walker, what is it? Doctor, I am so sorry to bother you, but it is Mr. Witherspoon. He has escaped. What? Sinclair gasped. How? We do not know, doctor. One of the nurses went to check on him and he was simply gone. He must have slipped out during the shift change. Should I call the police? No, Sinclair said quickly. Do not call the police. Everything is going to be fine. I think I know where he is going. He hung up the phone, turned around, and saw Edgar Witherspoon standing in the doorway of the apartment. Edgar was wearing his wild, wispy white hair as usual, but he looked different. He was no longer wearing his faded cardigan. Instead, he was dressed in a bright, colorful tropical shirt covered in palm trees, a pair of clean khaki shorts, and a straw sun hat. He carried a small suitcase in one hand. Mr. Witherspoon, Dr. Sinclair cried out, a wave of immense relief washing over him. Edgar smiled warmly. You got a handkerchief, doctor? Oh, yes, yes, right away, Sinclair said, reaching into his pocket and handing his neat white handkerchief to the old man. Thanks, Edgar said, wiping his brow. That nurse lady at the hospital had me dressed and moving so fast. I left mine behind. Mr. Witherspoon, Dr. Sinclair said, his voice filled with sincere emotion. I do not even know how to begin to apologize to you. Nothing in all my years of medical training, nothing in all my books, had prepared me for a case like yours. I was wrong. I was so terribly wrong. Edgar smiled gently, patting the doctor on the arm. It is quite all right, doctor. No harm done. Well, at least not too much harm. It was nice meeting you. Where are you going? Sinclair asked, noticing the suitcase and the tropical shirt. Away, finally, Edgar said, a happy, relaxed look in his eyes. After 11 years of doing this, I am finally moving on. But what about the machine? Sinclair asked, his voice rising with panic as he looked around the room. What about keeping the world in balance? Edgar said, his smile widening. The voice spoke to me while I was in your hospital room. It said, Edgar, have you ever been to Miami? And I said no, but I used to think it would be a very nice place to retire. Go for it, the voice said. You are officially off duty. You are off duty? Sinclair whispered, horrified. You mean all this? All this is no longer necessary. Sure it is, Edgar said, looking at the machine. It is absolutely essential, doctor. The world still has to be kept in balance, after all. Then who is going to do it? Sinclair asked, his heart pounding in his chest. Edgar looked at Dr. Sinclair, his eyes filled with a warm, mischievous light. And look, Edgar said, pointing to a section of the machine where a small silver fork had slipped slightly from the business card Sinclair had provided. It needs adjusting already. Dr. Sinclair looked at the fork, then at Edgar. That is it, Edgar said encouragingly. Now, if I can just get a ping-pong ball in there by exactly 7:13 this evening. He picked up his suitcase and walked toward the door, pausing to look back at the psychiatrist. Well, I guess we solved that little problem, Edgar said with a cheerful nod. I would get cracking if I was you, doctor. It is a big job. But Mr. Witherspoon sing that pendulum on top of the big lead weight. There is a small stack of copper pennies. Dr. Sinclair nodded. He had read about this. It was a well-known fact of horology. Yes, Edgar continued. Every so often, the clock keepers will take one single penny off the stack. And the clock speeds up just a fraction of a second. Or they will put one more penny on, and the clock slows down. The pennies change the balance of the pendulum just a little bit, but it is enough to keep the whole massive mechanism running perfectly year after year. So, Dr. Sinclair said, trying to follow the analogy, what you have built here in your apartment is some kind of clock. Of course not, Edgar said, looking at the doctor as if he had lost his mind. Why on earth would I build a clock? You can buy a perfectly good clock for $3 at any drugstore, and it does not lose 10 seconds in an entire year. Why would I waste my retirement building a giant clock? Then what is it? Anyway, Edgar continued, ignoring the question. The voice said to me, Edgar, the world is a very funny, fragile place. You have little wars here, big wars there, volcanoes going off in distant lands, storms, tornadoes, a terrific amount of noise and bother. The world is like a giant, chaotic clock. And you, Edgar, you have to build something that will keep the world from going too far. Something that will keep it in balance so it does not go poof. What those copper pennies do for the pendulum of Big Ben, this machine does for the entire planet. Dr. Sinclair stared at the delicate web of wire and junk. It was a beautiful, poetic, and utterly tragic metaphor. And who do you think it is who is speaking to you, Mr. Witherspoon? Sinclair asked softly. Who is the voice? Well, Edgar said, scratching his chin thoughtfully, sometimes I think it is God. But then I think to myself, no, surely God would have a much deeper, more commanding voice. This voice is very quiet, very polite. He reached into his cardigan pocket and pulled out a small, dried prune. Would you care for a prune, doctor? Oh, no, thank you, Dr. Sinclair said, declining with a polite wave of his hand. I think I was just leaving. But you have only just arrived, Edgar protested gently. Dr. Sinclair began to back toward the door, careful to avoid the hanging threads. Oh, careful, Edgar warned, pointing to a wire near the doctor's elbow. I have no idea how the thing actually works, Edgar confessed, looking at the machine with a sense of wonder. All I know is that the voice tells me what the machine needs to stay in balance, and I go out and get it. Simple as that. Goodbye, Mr. Witherspoon, Dr. Sinclair said, reaching the safety of the hallway. You keep up the good work. We could call it a sculpture, Edgar suggested, looking hopeful. Would that make my niece happy? If we just tell her it is an art project? Dr. Sinclair paused, looking at the hopeful face of the old man. I will see what I can do, Mr. Witherspoon. Oh, and doctor, Edgar called out as Sinclair began to walk away. If you happen to run across an old tuba, would you bring it by? I need it in exactly 2 hours. Dr. Sinclair did not answer. He walked down the stairs, his mind heavy with the clinical reality of the situation. Edgar Witherspoon was a lovely, brilliant, and gentle man, but he was living in a state of severe, unmanageable psychosis. The fire hazard alone was significant, and his erratic behavior on the streets was bound to lead to trouble. For his own safety, he would have to be hospitalized. Chapter 5: The Catastrophe of Tatoa. 2 days later, the commitment papers had been signed by Cynthia and approved by the court. Dr. Sinclair had arranged for Edgar to be brought to the psychiatric ward of the county hospital for a 3-day observation period. It was a clean, quiet, sterile room, with white walls, a neat metal bed, and a single window looking out over the hospital gardens. Edgar sat on the edge of the bed, looking small, frail, and utterly out of place without his wild, beautiful machine around him. Cynthia stood near the window, her eyes red from crying, while Dr. Sinclair stood near the door with a clipboard. Cynthia, please, do not do this to me, Edgar pleaded, his voice small and trembling. Uncle Edgar, please, Cynthia said, her voice cracking. It is just for 3 days while they observe you. We want to make sure you are healthy. It is too long, Edgar said, his voice rising with panic. 3 days is far too long. The machine has to be maintained. It has to be kept in balance every single hour, or things will begin to fall apart. You do not understand. Mr. Witherspoon, Dr. Sinclair said, stepping forward and speaking in his most soothing professional tone. You hear voices. You must understand that this is not normal. Healthy people do not hear voices in their heads. Edgar looked up at the doctor, his eyes sharp and analytical despite his fear. You hear voices too, doctor, he said flatly. No, Mr. Witherspoon, I do not, Sinclair replied. Healthy people do not hear voices. But you hear mine, do you not? Edgar asked, his voice there. And he could hurt other people. Namely me. He needs your professional help, Dr. Sinclair. Yesterday, he came to my door in a state of absolute panic. E guanti da yo-yo. He insisted he had to have it by 6 o'clock in the evening. And last week, it was pieces of broken dolls. Heads, arms, legs. It is terrifying, doctor. Please do something. Please, for his sake. And ours, of course, Mrs. Milligan added, adjusting her collar. Dr. Sinclair sighed softly. The description of Edgar Witherspoon's behavior certainly painted a picture of severe obsessive-compulsive patterns, perhaps mixed with age-related cognitive decline. Yet, Sinclair always preferred to see the humanity behind the clinical labels. I understand your concern, Sinclair said gently. I will pay a visit to your uncle. Where exactly does he live? In the basement apartment of my building, Mrs. Milligan answered. But good luck getting him to answer. His doorbell does not work. Ah, Cynthia whispered, looking at the landlady. I think he disconnected it, Mrs. Milligan. Yes, down there in the basement. It is a world of its own, Mrs. Milligan grumbled. Dr. Sinclair stood up, offering a reassuring smile. I will go there this afternoon and see if I can engage him in a conversation. We will find out what is happening, and we will make sure he is safe. Chapter 2: The Dweller in the Basement. The basement of the apartment building was cool and smelled of old brick, coal dust, and laundry detergent. Dr. Jeremy Sinclair descended the concrete steps, his leather shoes clicking softly in the quiet corridor. The pipes overhead hummed with the passage of warm water, a mechanical heartbeat for the building above. At the far end of the hallway, near a stack of discarded wooden crates, an elderly man was bent over, his eyes fixed on the floor. He wore a faded tweed vest that had seen better decades, a mismatched pair of trousers, and a look of intense, scholarly concentration. "Oh, thank you," the old man muttered to himself, his fingers brushing against the concrete. "Thanks anyway, Mr. Pilchick, but I already found a brass thimble." Dr. Sinclair stopped a few paces away. The old man had not noticed his approach. He possessed a wild halo of silver hair and a pair of bright, remarkably clear blue eyes that seemed to look through things rather than just at them. "Excuse me," Dr. Sinclair said warmly. The old man blinked, looking up from his search. "You are not Mr. Pilchick," he observed, his voice light and airy, carrying a curious rhythm. "No, indeed," the doctor replied, stepping forward and extending his hand. "I am Dr. Jeremy Sinclair. May I talk to you, Mr. Pilchick? Mr. Witherspoon? Some other time, perhaps." The old man waved his hand dismissively, his focus already returning to the floor. "I have to look for a doll's head," he said. Dr. Sinclair watched as Edgar Witherspoon scurried down the hall, his movements surprisingly agile for a man of his years. To Sinclair, who had spent decades studying the human mind, this was a familiar sight. It was the portrait of an old man living in a private world of irrational urgencies. It was an all-too-common sight in his profession, a sad but predictable retreat from the complexities of a changing world into the comforting, structured delusion of a private quest. But Edgar Witherspoon was a most uncommon old man. He possessed a secret that reached out to the four corners of the earth, a secret that was woven into the very fabric of reality, as the good doctor was about to discover. "Mr. Witherspoon," Dr. Sinclair said, following him down the corridor toward a heavy wooden door that stood slightly ajar. "Your niece, Cynthia. She worries about you very much." Edgar stopped himself. He scrambled for the telephone on his desk, his fingers trembling so violently that he misdialed twice before finally connecting to the operator. "Yes, give me the number for the Daily Chronicle, please," he gasped. "Yes, the newsroom. Thank you." The phone rang, and a harried voice answered on the other end. "News desk." "Hello," Dr. Sinclair said, his voice tight with panic. "I want to check on a news story. I just heard a report on the radio about a tidal wave destroying an island in the South Pacific." "Yes, Tatoa. Are there any details?" "Yes," the reporter said, the sound of typing audible in the background. "It is a terrible tragedy. A sudden seismic shift beneath the ocean floor triggered a massive wave. The entire island is gone." "Exactly what time did this happen?" Dr. Sinclair demanded, his voice cracking. "Do you have the exact time?" The reporter paused, rustling some papers. "Let's see. According to the seismologists, the first wave hit the island at exactly 3:17 this afternoon, local time. Or rather, 3:17 our time." Dr. Sinclair felt the room spin. The telephone receiver felt cold and impossibly heavy in his hand. "Thank you," he whispered, and hung up the phone. He sat there in the silence of his study, the spilled milk dripping onto the floor. 3:17. The exact minute Edgar Witherspoon had slumped back in his hospital bed and wept for the lost island. It was impossible. It was completely, utterly impossible. There was no scientific explanation, no logical pathway that could connect a pile of junk in a basement apartment on Elm Street with a seismic event in the South Pacific. It was a coincidence. It had to be a coincidence. But as a scientist, Dr. Sinclair knew that the odds of such a coincidence were astronomical. And then he remembered Santa Barbara. The earthquake in Santa Barbara had occurred the previous week, on the very day Edgar had been frantically searching for a blonde doll's head to stop the shaking. Sinclair had not checked the exact time of that earthquake, but he knew it had been in the afternoon. "I am not taking any chances," Dr. Sinclair muttered, his eyes wide with a sudden, terrifying realization. If Edgar was telling the truth, if that strange, delicate machine was indeed the only thing keeping the planet in balance, then the landlady, Mistress Milligan, was about to destroy the world. He grabbed his coat and keys, ran out of his house, and drove through the dark streets of the city as fast as his car would carry him. Chapter 7. The Savior of the Machine. Dr. Sinclair arrived at the Elm Street apartment building, his breath coming in short, panicked gasps. He ran up the stairs to apartment 3B. The door was unlocked. He pushed it open and stepped inside, his heart leaping into his throat. Mistress Milligan was there, standing in the center of the living room, holding a large, black plastic garbage bag. She had already pulled down a section of the colored yarn, and she was reaching for a small brass thimble that was suspended from a copper wire. "Stop!" Dr. Sinclair screamed, rushing into the room. "Don't touch that!" Mistress Milligan jumped, dropping her garbage bag in surprise. "Dr. Sinclair, you frightened me half to death. You didn't touch anything else, did you?" Sinclair gasped, his eyes darting frantically around the room, assessing the damage. "You haven't touched anything or moved anything." "Not yet," Mistress Milligan said, looking at him as if he had lost his mind. "I was just about to start cleaning this garbage out. I cannot rent this apartment with all this junk in it, you know." "Why?" Sinclair asked, his voice shaking. "Because this is the creation of a disordered mind," Mistress Milligan said, gesturing to the machine. "He is a loony, Doctor. What else do you have to know? I need to get this place cleared out so I can put it back on the market." No, Dr. Sinclair said, stepping between her and the delicate structure. "It is not that simple, Mistress Milligan. You cannot touch this. You must not touch a single thread." "But I cannot rent this place with garbage in it," she protested. "All right," Dr. Sinclair said, making a sudden, desperate decision. "I will rent it." Mistress Milligan blinked, her jaw dropping. "You?" Yes, Sinclair said quickly. "I will rent the apartment, just as it is. I will give you double what you are currently getting for it. I will bring the lease and the check to your office first thing tomorrow morning. Just promise me you will not touch anything. Not a single paper clip." Mistress Milligan looked at the doctor, then at the room full of junk, and then back to the doctor. A slow, greedy smile began to spread across her face. "Double the rent?" "Yes," Sinclair said. "Double." "Well," she said, smoothing her apron, "in that case, I suppose the study of a disordered mind is a very important thing. I will leave the keys with you, Doctor." "Thank you, Mistress Milligan." She picked up her empty garbage bag and scurried out of the room, leaving Dr. Sinclair alone with the machine. Yet there was something about Edgar Witherspoon that lingered in Jeremy's mind. The old man did not seem confused or frightened. He seemed purposeful, driven by a secret that Jeremy could not yet comprehend. Later that week, Cynthia, Edgar's niece, came to see Jeremy. She was a pleasant, well-dressed woman whose face was etched with deep lines of worry. She sat in Jeremy's office, her hands clasping her purse tightly. "Your niece, she worries about you," Jeremy thought, remembering the conversation he had planned to have with Edgar. But speaking to Cynthia now, he realized the depth of the family's distress. "He is a very nice man," Cynthia said softly, her eyes glistening. "He really is. I love him dearly. But he has changed so much since he retired. He was a brilliant engineer, Doctor. He worked on massive projects, bridges, dams, complex structures. And now he is living like this." "I understand," Jeremy replied gently. "I spoke with him briefly in the basement of his building. He seemed very occupied." "He is always occupied," Cynthia sighed. "But with what? Junk. Rubbish. I am afraid he is going to hurt himself." Jeremy promised her that he would make another attempt to speak with Edgar, this time at his apartment. He wanted to assess the old man's living conditions firsthand before making any clinical recommendations. The following afternoon, Jeremy returned to the apartment building and made his way to Edgar's door on the 3rd floor. He knocked firmly. "Mr. Witherspoon?" Jeremy called out. "It is Dr. Sinclair." Go away. A muffled voice responded from behind the heavy wooden door. I am not home. Mr. Witherspoon, I was here last week, Jeremy said, raising his voice slightly. You remember? Sorry, I was not home last week either, the voice replied instantly. Jeremy smiled despite himself. The old man's wit was still intact. Mr. Witherspoon, I could legally force you to open this door to me. Is that what you want? There was a long silence, followed by the sound of several deadbolts sliding back, one by one. The door cracked open, held by a sturdy brass chain. Edgar's face appeared in the gap, his eyes squinting suspiciously at the psychiatrist. You are a curious one, Edgar said. Odd, you mean? Jeremy asked. I mean nosy, Edgar corrected. I am paid to be nosy, Jeremy admitted with a light shrug. Curious, I mean, really? Edgar seemed genuinely surprised. Do you not think that is odd? Most people are curious for nothing. That is very nice for you. Are the hours good? They are reasonable, Jeremy said, trying to steer the conversation back to his clinical goals. Mr. Witherspoon, why do you collect dolls' heads, shoes, paperclips? I cannot afford Rembrandts, Edgar replied flatly. What? Jeremy blinked, thrown off balance by the unexpected answer. Oh no, Edgar muttered suddenly, his eyes widening in alarm as he looked at an old pocket watch he pulled from his pocket. Oh no. As usual, it has been lovely. Please do not call again. Wait, Mr. Witherspoon, Jeremy urged, placing a hand on the door frame. I may have to. The next time it might not be so lovely, you understand what I mean. Wouldn't you rather invite me in of your own free will? Edgar stared at Jeremy for a long moment, the eccentric humor fading from his expression, replaced by a solemn, almost desperate gravity. You must, Edgar whispered. You must, but be very, very careful where you walk. The chain slipped off and the door swung open. Jeremy stepped across the threshold and froze. He had expected the cluttered, chaotic mess of a typical hoarder's home. But what he beheld was something entirely different. The apartment was vast, but almost every square inch of space was occupied by an incredibly complex, sprawling three-dimensional structure. It was a labyrinth of wires, pipes, bicycle spokes, and wooden planks. Hanging from the ceiling and balanced on delicate metal rods were thousands of random objects. Jeremy saw a brass thimble, created a fantasy where he was vital to the world's survival. It was a coping mechanism to deal with the fear of insignificance. Poor Uncle Edgar, Cynthia had said before she left. You will take good care of him, won't you? Sinclair turned on the radio, hoping the familiar drone of the news would distract him. The Mid-East stalemate continues, the radio announcer said. Congress passes the new Transportation Act. And in the South Pacific, the tiny island of Tatoa was destroyed by a massive tidal wave this afternoon. Details on this and all the news in an hour. Sinclair froze. The medical journal slipped from his fingers, hitting the floor with a soft thud. Did he say Tatoa? Sinclair whispered, his heart hammering against his ribs. He snatched the telephone receiver and dialed the operator with trembling fingers. Yes, the number for the Chronicle newspaper, please, Sinclair said, his voice shaking. Thank you. A moment later, the call connected. Hello, Sinclair said, trying to control his breathing. I want to check on a news story. I just heard something on the radio about a tidal wave destroying an island. Tatoa. Yes, that is it. Are there any details? 1,000, the voice on the other end replied. The island was completely submerged. It is gone. Really? Sinclair gasped. When did it happen? This afternoon? I mean, exactly what time did the wave hit? The reporter on the line checked his notes. The seismic sensors recorded the impact at exactly 3:17 in the afternoon, local time. Thank you, Sinclair whispered, dropping the receiver back onto its cradle. He sat in absolute silence for a long moment. 3:17. The exact minute Edgar had looked at his watch. The exact minute Edgar had said Tatoa became history. Sinclair stood up, his chair screeching against the floorboards. He dashed out of his office, yelling for his assistant. Miss Walker, Sinclair shouted. Yes, doctor? A young woman called out from the reception desk. Tatoa was destroyed at 3:17 this afternoon, Sinclair said, his eyes wide with a mixture of terror and realization. Is that bad? Miss Walker asked, looking confused. Last week, Santa Barbara was hit by an earthquake, Sinclair said, his voice rising in panic. I am not taking any chances. Oh my God, the landlady. She will destroy it. Who? Miss Walker asked. Mrs. Milligan, Sinclair shouted, already running toward the door. She is going to throw the machine away. Get Mr. Witherspoon released immediately. Drive him home. You personally as fast as you can. Go. Chapter 7. The Preservation of Balance. Dr. Sinclair burst through the front doors of the apartment building and sprinted down the basement steps, his heart hammering in his ears. He turned the corner into the corridor and saw Mrs. Milligan standing in the open doorway of Edgar's apartment, a large black plastic bag in her hand. Don't touch the thing, Sinclair screamed, his voice echoing off the concrete walls. Mrs. Milligan jumped, dropping the bag in surprise. Dr. Sinclair, you frightened the life out of me. You didn't, did you? Sinclair panted, rushing up to her and grabbing her shoulders gently but firmly. You haven't touched anything or moved anything. Not yet, Mrs. Milligan said, looking at him as if he had lost his mind. Why? Sinclair let out a long, shuddering breath. Because this is the creation of a disordered mind, he said, quickly inventing a professional explanation. And by studying it, analyzing it just exactly as he left it, I can come to a deeper insight into Mr. Witherspoon's problem. Mrs. Milligan rolled her eyes. He is a loony, doctor. What else do you have to know? I can't rent this place with all this garbage in it. All right, Sinclair said without hesitation. I'll rent it. You? Mrs. Milligan asked, her jaw dropping. Yes, Sinclair said. I'll give you double what you are getting for it now. I'll be up later with the check. Thank you, Mrs. Milligan. Mrs. Milligan stared at him, then shrugged, the prospect of double rent quickly overcoming her desire to clean. Well, if you want to pay for a room full of trash, that is your business, she said, turning and walking away. Sinclair stepped into the apartment, the quiet humming of the machine now sounding like a fragile, beautiful symphony. He looked at the coat hanger, the tap shoe, the paper clips. Everything was in place, but the rhythm was slightly off. The lack of Edgar's constant adjustments was beginning to show. Suddenly, the door behind him burst open. Miss Walker stood there, panting, with Edgar Witherspoon right behind her. He has escaped, Miss Walker gasped. Excuse me, Mr. Witherspoon, Sinclair cried out, rushing to the old man. Edgar was. Jeremy walked away, his mind spinning with the sheer scale of Edgar's elaborate world. He felt a deep sympathy for the old man, but as a medical professional, he knew he had a duty to ensure Edgar's safety and the safety of those around him. The next day, Cynthia arrived at Jeremy's office, accompanied by 2 orderlies from the psychiatric hospital. They had a commitment order signed by a judge, based on Jeremy's initial assessment of Edgar's eccentricities and the potential hazards of his crowded apartment. Jeremy accompanied them to Edgar's apartment. When Edgar opened the door and saw the men in white coats, his face fell. Cynthia, don't do this to me, Edgar pleaded, his voice cracking. Uncle Edgar, please, Cynthia said, tears in her eyes. It is just for 3 days while they observe you. It is too long, Edgar argued, looking back at his machine. It has to be maintained, kept in balance. Mr. Witherspoon, Jeremy said gently, stepping forward. You hear voices. That is not normal. You must understand that. You hear voices, too, Edgar countered, pointing a finger at Jeremy. No, Jeremy said patiently. Healthy people do not hear voices. You hear mine, don't you? Edgar asked, his logic razor sharp. That is not the same thing, Jeremy said. Why? What is the difference between a sane man hearing a crazy voice and a crazy man hearing a sane voice? Edgar demanded. Maybe the truth is somewhere in the middle. You do not understand the risk you are taking. Before anyone could stop him, Edgar lunged toward his machine, but the orderlies quickly and gently restrained him. As they led him toward the door, Edgar looked back at a small, delicately balanced brass bell that had begun to vibrate. "I knew it," Edgar whispered, his voice filled with a profound, terrifying sadness. "There goes Tatoa." Jeremy frowned, watching the old man being led down the hallway. "What is Tatoa?" "A tiny island in the South Pacific," Edgar said quietly. "What time is it?" Jeremy checked his wristwatch. 3:17. At 3:17 in the afternoon, "Tatoa became history because of you," Edgar said, his eyes locking onto Jeremy's with an intense, haunting look. "Please, while there is still time. It will take me days to clean up this junk. Keep her away from it. Remember Tatoa." The apartment door clicked shut, leaving Jeremy alone in the silent hallway. He felt a cold chill run down his spine, but he quickly dismissed it. It was a classic case of a tired, aging man feeling useless, who had created a typical delusion of grandeur to convince himself that he was vital to the world's survival. He felt pity for poor Uncle Edgar. Cynthia walked up to Jeremy, wiping her eyes. "You will take good care of him, won't you, Doctor?" "We will, Cynthia," Jeremy promised. "He is in good hands." Later that evening, Jeremy sat in his study at home, trying to relax. He turned on the radio, letting the soft, low voice of the news announcer fill the room as he graded some student papers. "Mideast stalemate continues," the announcer droned. "Congress passes the new Transportation Act. And in the South Pacific, the tiny island of Tatoa was destroyed this afternoon by a sudden and devastating tidal wave. Details on this and all the news in an hour." Jeremy froze. The pen in his hand hovered over the paper. Did he say Tatoa? Jeremy whispered to the empty room. He stood up, his heart pounding in his chest. He rushed to the telephone and dialed the operator. "Yes, the number for the Chronicle, please," he said, his voice trembling. "Thank you." He waited, the seconds ticking away like hours. The call went through, and a receptionist answered. "Hello," Jeremy said, trying to sound calm. "I want to check on a news story. I just heard something on the radio about a tidal wave destroying an island." "Yes, Tatoa. That is it. Are there any details?" 1,000, the voice on the other end replied. "Entire island submerged. Complete devastation." "Really?" Jeremy swallowed hard. When did it happen? This afternoon? That was always on the verge of losing a gear. From the window of his quiet, book-lined office, the world outside seemed orderly enough. Automobiles crawled along the paved avenues like industrious beetles, and pedestrians hurried along the sidewalks, wrapped tightly in their coats against the cool autumn breeze. Yet, as a psychiatrist, Jeremy knew that beneath the surface of this mundane order lay a chaotic ocean of human anxiety, private obsessions, and quiet desperation. On this particular afternoon, the peaceful atmosphere of his office was shattered by the energetic arrival of Mrs. Milligan. She was a woman of formidable presence, the landlady of a nearby apartment building, and she carried with her an aura of permanent exasperation. As she sat across from Jeremy, her hands gestured wildly, her keys jingling like an alarm bell. "He is crazy," Mrs. Milligan declared, her voice trembling with a mixture of anger and genuine concern. "That is what he is, Doctor. A loony, a nutcase, a genuine wacko. I am talking about Uncle Edgar. He is always looking for things." Jeremy leaned back in his leather chair, crossing his legs and adopting his most reassuring, professional expression. "And what sort of things does he look for, Mrs. Milligan?" "Things like 3 paper clips or a chrome coat hanger," she said, leaning forward to emphasize her words. "Or 1 patent leather tap shoe. He rummages through trash cans. He goes to garbage dumps. He is always bothering my other tenants. One day it is bicycle spokes. Then it is baseball cards. And who do the tenants complain to? Yours truly, of course. He will not let anybody into his apartment, Doctor. Not even his own niece, Cynthia, who worries herself sick over him. All that junk he is collecting, it is a fire trap. He could hurt himself or other people, namely me. He needs your help." Jeremy nodded slowly, jotting down a few notes on a yellow legal pad. Hoarding behavior was not uncommon among the elderly, often serving as a coping mechanism for loneliness or cognitive decline. Still, the specific details of Edgar Witherspoon's collection were unusually eclectic. Yesterday, Mrs. Milligan continued, her voice rising in pitch. He wanted a yo-yo. By 6 o'clock in the evening, mind you, and last week it was pieces of broken dolls. Heads, arms, legs. It is terrifying, doctor. Please do something. Please, for his sake and ours. Jeremy offered a gentle smile. I understand your concern, Mrs. Milligan. I will certainly look into the matter. Where can I find Mr. Witherspoon? At his apartment, she replied, rising from her chair and adjusting her handbag. But you will have a hard time getting him to answer. His bell does not work. Jeremy stood to escort her to the door. I will manage. Thank you for bringing this to my attention. Ah, Mrs. Milligan added as she paused by the doorway. I think he has disconnected it down there in the basement. He is always tinkering with things. With a final, dramatic sigh, the landlady departed, leaving Jeremy to contemplate the curious case of Edgar Witherspoon. An hour later, Jeremy arrived at the brick apartment building. The air in the hallway was thick with the smell of old cooking and floor wax. He descended the narrow wooden stairs into the dim, cavernous basement, searching for the building's electrical meters. As he navigated the shadows, he spotted a figure huddled near a cluster of pipes. The old man was wearing a faded woolen cardigan and a pair of trousers that had seen better days. His gray hair standing up in wild, unruly tufts. He was intently examining the concrete floor. Oh, thank you, the old man murmured, not looking up as Jeremy approached. Thanks anyway, Mr. Pilchick, but I already found a brass thimble. Jeremy paused, clearing his throat gently. You are not Mr. Pilchick. The old man blinked, finally looking up. His blue eyes were bright, sharp, and entirely devoid of malice, though they shone with a strange, feverish intensity. I am Dr. Jeremy Sinclair, Jeremy said softly, extending a hand. May I talk to you, Mr. Pilchick? Or rather, Mr. Witherspoon? Some other time, perhaps. I have to look for a doll's head, Edgar muttered, his gaze already darting back to the dusty floor. He turned and scurried away, disappearing up a flight of stairs before Jeremy could utter another word. Jeremy stood alone in the quiet basement, a sense of profound melancholy washing over him. Here was another soul lost in a private world of irrational urgencies. For a psychiatrist, it was an all too common sight. The voice spoke to me while I was in your hospital, Edgar explained cheerfully. It said, Edgar, have you ever been to Miami? I said no, but I used to think it would be a nice place to retire. Go for it, the voice said. Jeremy stared at him, dumbfounded. You are off duty? Edgar smiled. You mean all this is not necessary anymore? Jeremy asked, a glimmer of hope rising in his chest. Sure it is, Edgar said, his tone turning serious. It is absolutely essential. The world still has to be kept in balance. So who is going to do it? Jeremy asked, a sinking feeling developing in his stomach. Edgar pointed a finger at Jeremy. And look, it needs adjusting already. He walked back toward the apartment building, Jeremy following closely behind like a lost puppy. They entered the apartment, and Edgar pointed to a small, swinging pendulum that was beginning to wobble dangerously. That is it, Edgar said. Now, if I can just get a ping-pong ball in there by 7:13 in the evening. Well, I guess we solved that little problem. I would get cracking if I was you. Jeremy looked at the massive, fragile machine, then at Edgar's happy, relaxed face. It is impossible, Jeremy whispered. I refuse. Jeremy. Really, Edgar said, placing a warm hand on Jeremy's shoulder. You will grow to like it. Give it a chance. So long. Don't take any wooden nickels. Unless you really need them, of course. With a cheerful wave, Edgar Witherspoon walked out of the apartment, leaving Dr. Jeremy Sinclair alone with the destiny of the entire planet resting on a fragile wire. Mr. Witherspoon, Jeremy called out, but the door had already closed. He looked at the wobbling pendulum. The clock on the wall read 6:45. He had less than 30 minutes to find a ping-pong ball. No, Jeremy muttered, his eyes wide with a sudden, frantic realization. A tambourine. I have to find a tambourine right away. He ran to the window, throwing it open and leaning out into the cool evening air. He called down to a startled pedestrian on the street below. Can you help me? Jeremy shouted. Do you know where I can find a tambourine? The pedestrian stared up at him, shook his head, and hurried away. If in the next few months you notice that there has been a spate of catastrophes, or things are just not going right, remember that Edgar Witherspoon's replacement is still learning how to make some precise adjustments. But do not worry too much. His education will not last long, and soon he will have the hang of it. And then you will have a chance to make a difference. And perhaps you might give thanks to a physician whose practice extends to the well-being of the entire planet. Dr. Jeremy Sinclair offers a unique form of preventative medicine, a prescription for global survival, found only in the quiet, balanced corners of the Twilight Zone. The afternoon sun filtered through the tall, dusty windows of the psychiatric clinic, casting long, amber-colored bars of light across the polished oak desk of Dr. Jeremy Sinclair. It was an ordinary Thursday, the sort of day when the world felt heavy with its own routine, and the complaints of humanity seemed to repeat themselves in a predictable, rhythmic cycle. Dr. Sinclair, a man of quiet patience and deep empathy, leaned back in his leather chair, rubbing the bridge of his nose where his spectacles usually rested. He had spent the last 2 hours listening to the anxieties of the city, but nothing had quite prepared him for the whirlwind of worry that was about to walk through his door. The door flew open with a sudden, dramatic flare, and Cynthia stood on the threshold, her face a canvas of pure, unadulterated distress. She was a neat, well-dressed woman who clearly prided herself on order, which only made her current state of dishevelment more striking. He is crazy, Cynthia announced without even introducing herself, her voice trembling with a mixture of affection and sheer exasperation. That is exactly what he is, Doctor. A loony, a nutcase, a genuine wacko. Dr. Sinclair sat up, adjusting his posture to offer his most comforting, professional demeanor. Please sit down. A single patent leather tap shoe, 3 paper clips aligned perfectly on a copper wire, a blonde doll's head suspended by a fishing line, a yo-yo resting precisely on a small wooden platform, and a chrome coat hanger balancing a series of colorful baseball cards. The entire construction seemed to hum with a strange, invisible energy. It was not a pile of junk. It was a massive, intricate, and bafflingly balanced machine. How is it? Edgar asked, watching Jeremy's reaction closely. It is very interesting, Mr. Witherspoon, Jeremy murmured, stepping carefully over a low-hanging wire. What is it? This? Edgar gestured proudly to the grand structure. Yes. This is the only thing that keeps the world from going poof. Jeremy stared at the old man, his professional mind immediately labeling this as a classic delusion of grandeur. Yet, the sheer engineering genius required to balance such an enormous, fragile system was undeniable. Now, let me understand you clearly, Mr. Witherspoon, Jeremy said, choosing his words carefully. You say that this is what keeps the world from going poof. And it is not easy, Edgar said, sighing deeply as he adjusted a tiny screw on a bicycle wheel. Most things are nearly impossible to find. Where would you look for a skate key? Oh, I cannot imagine, Jeremy replied honestly. I found one, though, Edgar said with a triumphant smile. You think that is crazy? Well, you would not by any chance have a business card, would you? Oh, yes, of course, Jeremy said, reaching into his coat pocket and pulling out a small white card. Edgar snatched it eagerly, examining it as if it were a rare gem. That was an easy one, he muttered, carefully placing the card on top of a stack of old magazines, which immediately caused a small pendulum nearby to shift by a fraction of an inch. Well, Jeremy said, looking around the room, I will not take up any more of your time. I have seen more than enough. He began to make his way back to the door, but Edgar followed him, his voice softening. I used to be an engineer, the old man said, a touch of nostalgia in his tone. Earned lots of money. Then I retired. Worst mistake I ever made. Life was so damned boring. And then the voice spoke to me. Jeremy paused at the door, turning back. Oh, you also hear voices? You too? Edgar asked, his eyes lighting up with kinship. Please tell me about it. Jeremy realized he had made a slip. No, I mean many people experience that. Please, tell me about your voice. I was sitting in the park one day, Edgar said, leaning against a sturdy wooden beam of his machine, feeding the pigeons, and suddenly, there it was. The voice. Edgar, it said. Have you ever been to England? Oh yes, I replied, why? No, that is what the voice asked me. Edgar, it said. In the heart of Big Ben, there is a pendulum that tells the clock how fast to tick. At the bottom of the pendulum, on top of the big weight, there is a stack of pennies. Every so often, they take one off and the clock speeds up, or they put one on and the clock slows down. The pennies change the balance just a little, but enough to keep the whole mechanism running perfectly. Jeremy listened, fascinated by the logic of the explanation. So what you have here is some kind of clock. Of course not, Edgar scoffed. Why would I build a clock? $3 at any drugstore, and it does not lose 10 seconds in a year. Anyway, the voice said, Edgar, the world is a funny place. Little wars here, big wars there, volcanoes going off, storms, tornadoes, a terrific amount of noise and bother. You have to build something that will keep the world from going too far, maybe even going poof. What the pennies do for Big Ben, this does for the world. Jeremy studied the old man's face. The conviction in Edgar's eyes was absolute. Who do you think it is who is speaking to you? Well, Edgar said, scratching his chin, sometimes I think it is God. And then I think no, God would have a deeper voice. He reached into a small wooden bowl on a table. Would you care for a prune, doctor? Oh, no, thank you, Jeremy said, opening the door. I was just leaving. But you have just arrived, Edgar protested. Oh, careful. Jeremy warned himself as he almost tripped over a wire near the threshold. I have no idea how the thing works, Edgar called out as Jeremy stepped into the hallway. All I know is that the voice tells me what it needs and I get it. Goodbye, Mr. Witherspoon, Jeremy said, offering a polite nod. You keep up the good work. We could call it a sculpture. Would that make your niece happy? Edgar looked puzzled. What? Oh no. If you happen to run across an old tuba, would you bring it by? I need it in 2 hours. Not to press the matter in the hallway, Dr. Sinclair followed Edgar back toward his apartment door. Mr. Witherspoon, your niece Cynthia asked me to check on you. She worries about you very much. She is a very nice woman, Edgar said, turning around with a warm smile. A truly lovely girl. So please tell her not to worry. See? A simple solution. No need for anyone to worry. Thanks for coming, Doctor. It has been a pleasure meeting you. But I have to get on with my work, Edgar continued, his hand resting on the brass doorknob of his apartment. Your work? Dr. Sinclair asked, stepping closer. I bet you would like to know what it is, wouldn't you? Edgar teased, a mischievous glint in his eyes. Yes, actually, I would, Dr. Sinclair admitted. Wrong answer, Edgar said with a soft chuckle. If you knew, you would only worry more, and we have quite enough worry in the world as it is. By the way, Doctor, you do not happen to see a doll's head here anywhere, do you? You mean like that one? Dr. Sinclair pointed to a small wooden crate near the stairs where a plastic doll's head was visible. Edgar trotted over, picked it up, and inspected it with a critical eye. Ah, no. This one is too big. Also, she is a brunette. I need a blonde doll's head, and I need it in 5 minutes. And what happens if you do not find a blonde doll's head in 5 minutes? Dr. Sinclair asked, humoring the old gentleman. Edgar looked at him with absolute, deadpan seriousness. You want Santa Barbara to fall into the ocean? If not, then stand aside, sir. Stand aside. Dr. Sinclair stepped back, startled by the intensity of the statement. Edgar scrambled past him, rushing down the corridor toward a storage closet. A moment later, There was a triumphant shout from the depths of the closet. "Woohoo!" Edgar cried, emerging with a slightly dusty, blonde plastic doll's head held aloft like a trophy. Just in the nick of time. No time to lose. "Mr. Witherspoon, please," Dr. Sinclair began, trying to follow him. "I am sorry," Edgar said as he unlocked his apartment door, his movements incredibly swift for a man of his age. "I should not be rude. You have come all this way to see me, and I do appreciate the company. May I come in?" Dr. Sinclair asked, reaching for the door. "And it was so nice. A pleasure meeting you," Edgar said, stepping inside his apartment and quickly closing the door to a mere crack. "Tell my niece hello. Now, if you will excuse me, I have got to stop the shaking in Santa Barbara." "Mr. Witherspoon," Dr. Sinclair called out, but the door was already shutting. "On your way out, could you dump this?" Edgar's hand popped out of the crack, handing Dr. Sinclair a small metal tin filled with rusty nails, before the door clicked shut and the heavy deadbolt turned. Dr. Sinclair stood in the hallway for a moment, holding the tin of nails, feeling completely bewildered. He looked down at the rusty metal, then up at the solid wooden door. The sound of faint clinking, whirring, and the occasional chime could be heard from inside the apartment. A complex symphony of domestic noises that defied easy explanation. The next morning, Dr. Sinclair sat in his office, reviewing his notes, when the telephone rang. It was Cynthia. "Good afternoon, doctor," she said, her voice tight with anticipation. "Did you see Uncle Edgar yesterday?" "Yes, I saw him yesterday morning," Dr. Sinclair replied, leaning back in his chair. "Well, what is your assessment?" I could not exactly call it a long conversation," Dr. Sinclair admitted, choosing his words carefully. "But it was long enough to realize that he is, indeed, highly eccentric." "Absolutely," Cynthia sighed. "He is completely out of touch." On the other hand, Dr. Sinclair continued, trying to find a balanced perspective. "Mr. Witherspoon appears to be happy, and he seems entirely harmless." "Harmless?" Cynthia gasped. "Doctor, he pesters complete strangers on the street. He runs after garbage trucks as if they were ice cream parlors. That is far from harmless. Just the other day, somebody saw him take a baby's bottle right out of its carriage in the park. The mother was terrified. I am afraid he will get arrested next. Exactly what time?" "Hold on, let me check the wire," the receptionist said. "Here it is." The first seismic activity was recorded at exactly 3:17 in the afternoon, Standard Time. "Thank you," Jeremy whispered, dropping the receiver back onto its cradle. He stood in his study, the room suddenly feeling very cold. 3:17. The exact minute Edgar had looked at the vibrating bell and declared that Tatoa was history. Jeremy did not sleep that night. The next morning he practically flew into his office. He grabbed his desk phone and buzzed his secretary. "Miss Walker," Jeremy called out. "Yes, doctor?" Her voice came through the intercom. "Tatoa was destroyed at 3:17 yesterday afternoon," Jeremy said, his voice tight. "Is that bad?" Miss Walker asked, sounding confused. "Last week, Santa Barbara was hit by an earthquake," Jeremy muttered, his mind racing. "I am not taking any chances. Oh my God, the landlady. She will destroy it." Jeremy grabbed his coat and ran out of the office, ignoring Miss Walker's bewildered calls. He drove to Edgar's apartment building, his hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly his knuckles turned white. He could not let Mrs. Milligan touch that machine. If the machine was keeping the world in balance, and Edgar was locked away, the consequences of dismantling it could be catastrophic. He sprinted up the stairs and burst into Edgar's apartment. To his horror, he found Mrs. Milligan standing in the center of the room, holding a cardboard box. "Get Mr. Witherspoon released immediately," Jeremy shouted, startling her. "Drive him home. You personally as fast as you can." Mrs. Milligan dropped the box, staring at him as if he had lost his mind. "Dr. Sinclair, what is the matter with you? Don't touch the thing," Jeremy cried, pointing at the intricate structure of wires and junk. "You didn't, did you?" You haven't touched anything or moved anything. Not yet, Mrs. Milligan said, backing away from him. Why? Because Jeremy scrambled for a plausible explanation, his mind working furiously, because this is the creation of a disordered mind. And by studying it, analyzing it just exactly as he left it, I can come to a deeper insight into Mr. Witherspoon's problem. Mrs. Milligan scoffed, recovering her composure. He is a loony, doctor. What else do you have to know? No. It is not that simple. I cannot rent this place with all this garbage in it. All right, Jeremy said desperately. I will rent it. You? She asked, her eyes widening in surprise. Yes, Jeremy nodded quickly. I will give you double what you are getting now. I will be up later with the check. Mrs. Milligan looked at the chaotic apartment, then at the frantic psychiatrist and shrugged. Well, money is money. Thank you, Mrs. Milligan. Jeremy breathed a sigh of relief, but his peace was short-lived. His office phone rang, and when he answered, Miss Walker was on the line, sounding panicked. Dr. Sinclair, she said, Mr. Witherspoon has escaped from the hospital. Jeremy gasped. He hung up and ran back down to the street. He searched the neighborhood, his eyes scanning every alleyway and storefront. Finally, he spotted Edgar walking briskly down the sidewalk, carrying a small, worn suitcase. Mr. Witherspoon, Jeremy called out, running toward him. Mr. Witherspoon. Edgar stopped and turned, a bright smile on his face. Oh, hello, doctor. Should I call the cops? A passing pedestrian asked, looking at Jeremy's frantic state. No, Jeremy waved the man off. Everything is going to be fine. He turned back to Edgar, catching his breath. Mr. Witherspoon, I do not know how to begin to apologize. Nothing in my training had prepared me for a case like yours. Edgar patted Jeremy's arm gently. That is quite all right, doctor. No hard feelings. Do you have a handkerchief? Jeremy asked, wiping the sweat from his forehead. Oh, yes, Edgar said, reaching into his pocket and handing him a clean, white cloth. Yes, right away. Thanks. That lady at the hospital had me dressed so fast. I left mine behind. Mr. Witherspoon, where are you going? Jeremy asked, noticing the suitcase. Away. Finally, Edgar said, his eyes sparkling with excitement. After 11 years of doing this, I am finally free. But what about the machine? Jeremy asked, his voice rising in panic. What about the world? The physician's face for any sign of hostility. Finding none, he sighed deeply and gestured for the doctor to follow him deeper into the room. You must be very, very careful where you walk, Edgar warned. One wrong step could throw the whole system out of alignment. How is it, Cloushade? Edgar called out to a small, ceramic cat sitting on a shelf. It is very interesting, Mr. Witherspoon, Dr. Sinclair said, looking at a particularly complex junction of copper wires and a small brass bell. What is this? This? Edgar asked, pointing to the entire room-spanning contraption. This is the only thing that keeps the world from going poof. Dr. Sinclair stared at him, trying to process the statement. Now, let me understand you clearly, Mr. Witherspoon. You say that this machine is what keeps the world from going poof. And it is not easy, Edgar said, adjusting a paper clip by a fraction of an inch. Most of the things I need are nearly impossible to find. For instance, where would you look for an old-fashioned metal skate key? Oh, I cannot imagine, Dr. Sinclair admitted. They do not make those anymore. I found one, though, Edgar said proudly, pointing to a small, rusted key hanging near the center of the room. You think that is crazy? Well, you wouldn't by any chance have a business card on you, would you? Oh yes, of course, Dr. Sinclair said. He reached into his pocket, pulled out a neat white card, and handed it to the old man. That was an easy one, Edgar said, taking the card and carefully placing it under the leg of a small wooden tripod to level it. Perfect. Well, I won't take up any more of your time, Doctor. I am sure you have seen more than enough to write your report. Dr. Sinclair sat down on a cleared wooden stool, fascinated by the old man's conviction. Mr. Witherspoon, how did you begin all of this? Edgar sat down on an old trunk, his expression turning reflective. I used to be an engineer, you know. I worked for a large corporation, earned lots of money, built bridges, designed structures. Then I retired. It was the worst mistake I ever made in my entire life. Life became so damned boring. I had nothing to do, nowhere to go. And then, one day, the voice spoke to me. Dr. Sinclair's clinical instincts instantly sharpened. "Oh, you hear voices? You too?" Edgar asked, looking delighted. "Please, tell me about it." No, Dr. Sinclair corrected quickly. "I do not hear voices, but please tell me about yours." Edgar leaned forward, his voice dropping to a confidential tone. "I was sitting in the public park one day, feeding the pigeons, feeling quite useless. And suddenly, there it was. The voice. 'Edgar,' it said, 'have you ever been to England?' And I said, 'Why, yes, I have, but why do you ask?' 'No, wait, that is what the voice asked me. 'Edgar, have you ever been to England?' And what did you say?' I said, 'No, I had never been there,' Edgar explained. And then the voice told me a story. It said, 'Edgar, in the very heart of the great clock tower of Big Ben in London, there is a giant pendulum that tells the clock how fast to tick. At the bottom of that pendulum, on top of the big weight, there is a stack of old copper pennies. Every so often, the clock keepers take 1 penny off, and the clock speeds up just a tiny bit. Or they put 1 penny on, and the clock slows down. The pennies change the balance of the pendulum by just a tiny fraction of an ounce. But that fraction is enough to keep the entire grand mechanism running perfectly.' Dr. Sinclair nodded. 'That is actually true. It is a well-known engineering fact about Big Ben.' 'Exactly,' Edgar said, pointing a finger at the doctor. 'So, the voice said to me, Edgar, the world is a very funny, complicated place. You have little wars here, big wars there, volcanoes going off, giant storms, tornadoes, a terrific amount of noise and bother. The world is like a giant clock, and it is constantly losing its balance. You have to build something that will keep the world from going too far, maybe even going poof. What the pennies do for Big Ben, your machine must do for the entire world.' Dr. Sinclair looked around at the hanging junk with a new sense of appreciation, though he remained entirely skeptical of its cosmic power. 'And who do you think it is who is speaking to you, Mr. Witherspoon?' 'Well,' Edgar said, scratching his chin, 'sometimes I think Cynthia. Tell me what is troubling you. Who are we talking about?' Cynthia sank into the armchair opposite him, clutching her purse as if it were a life-preserver in a stormy sea. 'My Uncle Edgar,' she said, shaking her head. 'Uncle Edgar Witherspoon. He is always looking for things. And I do not mean normal things like his reading glasses or his house keys. No, he is looking for things like 3 paper clips or a single chrome coat hanger or 1 patent leather tap shoe. He spends his days rummaging through trash cans. He goes to municipal garbage dumps. He is always bothering the other tenants in the building. One day he is begging everyone for bicycle spokes. Then the next day it is baseball cards. And who do the tenants complain to? Yours truly, because I am his only living relative in this city.' Dr. Sinclair nodded slowly, jotting down a few notes. Hoarding behavior and obsessive collecting are not uncommon in gentlemen of his age, Cynthia. It often provides a sense of control or purpose. But you do not understand, Doctor, Cynthia insisted, leaning forward. He will not let anybody into his apartment. Not even me, his own niece. He has locks on the door, and he keeps the blinds drawn tight. All that junk he is collecting, the paper, the metal, the plastic, it is a fire trap. If a spark were to catch, the whole building would go up. He could hurt himself. And he could hurt other people. Namely me, since I feel responsible for him. He needs your help, Doctor. He truly does. What kind of items has he been searching for recently? Dr. Sinclair asked, his curiosity piqued by the specificity of the uncle's quests. Yesterday, Cynthia said, her voice dropping to a whisper of disbelief. He came to my door and told me he absolutely had to have a toy yo-yo. And he needed it by 6 o'clock in the evening. Not a minute later. And last week it was pieces of broken dolls. Just the parts, Doctor. Heads, arms, legs. It is morbid. Please do something, doctor. Please, for his sake. And ours, of course. Dr. Sinclair offered her a gentle, reassuring smile. I will tell you what, Cynthia. I will go visit your Uncle Edgar myself. Sometimes a house call can reveal a great deal more than a clinical evaluation. Where does he live? He lives in the basement apartment of the building on Elm Street, Cynthia replied, looking immensely relieved. But I must warn you, his doorbell does not work. I think he disconnected it. With a promise to investigate, Dr. Sinclair bid Cynthia goodbye. Later that afternoon, he found himself walking down the concrete steps into the cool, damp basement of the old brick apartment building on Elm Street. The hallway was dimly lit, smelling of old paper and laundry detergent. As he approached the door-marked basement, he saw a woman with her hair in rollers and a colorful apron tied around her waist. She was speaking to an elderly man who was peering out from a partially open door. Ah, Mrs. Milligan, the elderly man said, his voice cheerful and light. I think I have solved the problem. Oh, thank you, the woman replied, shaking her head in a long-suffering manner. Thanks anyway, Mr. Pilchick. But I already found a brass thimble in my sewing basket. The elderly man emerged fully from his doorway, revealing himself to be a slender, energetic fellow with bright, twinkling eyes and a nest of untidy white hair. He wore a patched cardigan that looked as though it had survived several decades of wear. He looked at Dr. Sinclair with a curious, friendly expression. You are not Mr. Pilchick, the old man observed. I am Dr. Jeremy Sinclair, the physician said, stepping forward and extending his hand. May I talk to you, Mr. Witherspoon? Some other time, perhaps, Edgar Witherspoon said, politely but firmly shaking the doctor's hand before immediately letting go. I have a very tight schedule today. I have to look for a doll's head. A blonde one, specifically. Dr. Sinclair watched as the old man hurried past him. His eyes scanned the floor of the hallway as if a doll's head might materialize from the concrete. To Dr. Sinclair, this was an all-too-common sight. An old man living in a private, isolated world of irrational urgencies, retreating from reality into a fantasy of his own making. But Edgar Witherspoon was a most uncommon old man, possessing a secret that reached out to the four corners of the earth. It was a secret that the good doctor was about to discover, whether he was ready for it or not. Deciding not, created a fantasy where he was vital to the very survival of the world. It was a comforting lie to protect a fragile ego. Cynthia entered his office, looking pale but resolved. Poor Uncle Edgar, she sighed, sitting down. You will take good care of him, won't you, doctor? We will, Cynthia, Dr. Sinclair assured her. He is in very good hands here. An hour passed in quiet routine. Dr. Sinclair turned on his office radio to listen to the afternoon news broadcast, hoping the familiar, mundane reports of politics and weather would ground him. The Middle East stalemate continues today as diplomatic efforts stall, the news announcer reported. In domestic news, Congress has passed the new Transportation Act after a lengthy debate. And, turning to international news, a sudden and devastating disaster has struck in the South Pacific. The tiny, low-lying island of Tatoa has been completely destroyed by a massive, unexplained tidal wave. Early reports indicate the island has been submerged. Details on this developing story and all the afternoon news in 1 hour. Dr. Sinclair froze. The pen in his hand dropped onto the desk, rolling across the mahogany surface before falling to the floor with a quiet click. Did he say Tatoa? Dr. Sinclair whispered to himself. He snatched up the telephone receiver, his fingers trembling as he dialed. Operator, please give me the number for the Daily Chronicle news desk. Yes, thank you. The telephone rang twice before a harried voice answered. News desk Chronicle. Hello, Dr. Sinclair said, his voice cracking slightly. I want to check on a news story that was just broadcast. I heard a report about a tidal wave destroying an island in the Pacific. Yes, that is correct, the editor replied. The island of Tatoa. It was completely wiped out. Are there any details? Dr. Sinclair asked, his heart hammering against his ribs. Do you know when it happened? I mean, exactly what time did the tidal wave hit the island? We have 1,000 details coming in over the wire, the editor said. It happened this afternoon. Exactly at 3:17. Thank you, Dr. Sinclair whispered, slowly putting the receiver back on its cradle. He sat frozen, staring at the wall. Miss Walker, he suddenly shouted, calling for his head nurse. Yes, doctor? Miss Walker said, opening the door and looking in with concern. Tatoa was destroyed at 3:17 this afternoon, Dr. Sinclair said, his eyes wide. Is that bad? Miss Walker asked, confused by his agitation. Last week, Santa Barbara was hit by a minor earthquake right when Edgar was looking for that doll's head, Dr. Sinclair said, rising from his chair so quickly that it rolled back and hit the wall. I am not taking any chances. Oh my God, the landlady. Who? Miss Walker asked. Mrs. Milligan, Dr. Sinclair cried. She wants to clear out Edgar's apartment. She thinks it is garbage. She will destroy the machine. Miss Walker, get Mr. Witherspoon released immediately. Authorize it under my name. Tell them it was a diagnostic error. Drive him home yourself, personally, as fast as you can. Dr. Sinclair did not wait for her response. He grabbed his coat and ran out of the clinic, sprinting down the street toward Elm Street. His heart was pounding, a wild, irrational panic driving him forward. He descended the concrete steps into the basement hallway, throwing the door open. Inside Edgar's apartment, Mrs. Milligan was standing near the center of the room, holding a large black plastic garbage bag. She was reaching toward a delicate sequence of hanging copper wires. Don't touch that, Dr. Sinclair screamed, bursting into the room.
Mrs. Milligan jumped, dropping her garbage bag.
Good heavens, Dr. Sinclair, you scared the life out of me. You didn't touch anything, did you? Dr. Sinclair gasped, running his eyes over the vast, humming network of strings and wires. You haven't touched anything or moved anything. Not yet, Mrs. Milligan said, recovering her composure and looking at him with deep suspicion. Why? What is the matter with you? Because this, Dr. Sinclair said, taking a deep breath and trying to sound professional despite his state of panic. This is the unique creation of a highly complex, disordered mind. Time. Doctor, I will sign anything you need. I will cooperate in any way I can to get him the help he needs, even if we have to commit him for observation. All right, Dr. Sinclair said soothingly. Let us not rush into anything too drastic just yet. Maybe I will have another chat with him. A longer one where we can sit down and really talk. I want to see if I can understand the logic behind his actions. Let me call you back as soon as I can. Thank you very much, Doctor, Cynthia said, her voice softening. I just want him to be safe. After hanging up the telephone, Dr. Sinclair sat in silence. He turned on the small transistor radio on his desk to catch the midday news. The announcer's voice was calm and steady. Seismic activity could be a problem in the coming weeks, the announcer said. Meanwhile, scientists report that acid rain is affecting the northern lakes even more than previously estimated. In other news, emergency services in California are responding to a minor disturbance. Dr. Sinclair turned the volume down, his mind wandering back to Edgar Witherspoon's frantic search for the blonde doll's head to stop Santa Barbara from shaking. He shook his head, dismissing the thought as a mere coincidence. Coincidences were the playthings of the superstitious, and he was a man of science. The following afternoon, Dr. Sinclair returned to the Elm Street apartment building. He walked down the basement hallway and knocked firmly on Edgar's door. Mr. Witherspoon, he called out. Go away, a muffled voice shouted from inside. I am not home. It is Dr. Sinclair, Mr. Witherspoon. I was here last week. You remember me? Sorry, I was not home last week either, Edgar called back. Mr. Witherspoon, Dr. Sinclair said, adopting a firmer, more authoritative tone. I could legally force you to open this door to me. I have the authority to bring in the authorities for a wellness check. Is that what you want? There was a long silence from inside the apartment. Then, The sound of several locks turning echoed through the hallway. The door opened slowly, revealing Edgar, who was wearing a pair of protective goggles on his forehead and carrying a small brass thimble. "You are a curious one," Edgar said, squinting at the doctor. "Odd, you mean?" Dr. Sinclair asked with a slight smile. "I mean nosy," Edgar corrected him, though there was no malice in his voice. "I am paid to be nosy," Dr. Sinclair replied gently. "Curious, I mean, really?" Edgar asked, stepping back to let the doctor enter. "Don't you think that is odd? Most people in this world are curious for absolutely nothing. They want to know your business just to have something to gossip about. If you get paid for it, that is very nice for you. Are the hours good?" "The hours are reasonable," Dr. Sinclair said, stepping into the apartment. As he took his first full look at the room, his jaw nearly dropped. The apartment was not a chaotic mess of garbage, as Cynthia had feared, but rather an extraordinary, labyrinthine sculpture of unparalleled complexity. Thousands of objects were suspended from the ceiling by thin copper wires, balanced on delicate wooden dowels, and connected by a web of colorful strings, rubber bands, and bicycle spokes. There were old tin cans, watch gears, baseball cards, a toy yo-yo hanging at a precise angle, broken doll parts arranged in a neat sequence, paper clips linked together in long chains, and a single brass thimble sitting atop a small wooden pedestal. The entire contraption seemed to hum with a subtle, kinetic energy, slowly swaying and shifting in response to the air currents in the room. "Mr. Witherspoon," Dr. Sinclair whispered, looking around in absolute wonder. "Why do you collect all of this? The dolls' heads, the shoes, the paper clips?" "I cannot afford Rembrandts," Edgar said simply, shrugging his shoulders. Dr. Sinclair took a careful step forward, mindful of the delicate strings hanging around him. "What does all of this do?" "Oh no," Edgar said, suddenly looking panicked. "Oh no, please do not touch that. As usual, it has been lovely having you, Doctor, but please do not call again." "Mr. Witherspoon, I may have to," Dr. Sinclair said, his professional duty rising to the surface. "The next time I come, it might not be so lovely. You must understand what I mean. If you do not cooperate, your niece may have to take legal steps. Wouldn't you rather invite me in of your own free will and explain this to me?" Edgar looked at the doctor, his eyes searching